Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, bit of an echo. Is it my computer? Yeah. Hello?
Hello?
Still getting feedback? I think I'm muted. Good morning. Yes, it was me. I apologize. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay, and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Dylan Reed, Paul Gogan, Peter Reed, and Phil Ghosh, and our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Nicole Ivanoff. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, the Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually will need to submit a written request for decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee. Then individuals either in support or oppose the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on the speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues that were raised by those speakers. And this will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any minutes from previous meetings?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. Yes, there are minutes from the October 16th, 2024 hearing that have been confirmed and are ready for adoption.
Great. I'll look for a motion for that. Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Ghosh. All in favor? Those minutes are adopted. Are there any declarations of interest by panel, staff? None. Seeing none. The deferral request.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did receive a late deferral request for item number 14. That's the address of 71 to 89 King Street East, file number A0755/24TEY. There are no registered speakers to this item, and we do have the agent online.
Great. Before we go, are there any files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no files to be
Great.
closed or withdrawn.
All right, let's proceed then to deal with the deferral request, item number 12. Just hang. Is it 14? 14, thank you. Okay. This is an application from 71 to 89 King Street East to, I don't have a, hang on here. This is an application to alter the development standards for the existing four-story commercial office building by permitting a dwelling use through the conversion of the second and third stories from commercial office uses into residential units or live-work units. Also to permit a new residential lobby facing King Street East. No visitor parking spaces or accessible parking spaces will be provided on site. There will be a total of 3 commercial units and 11 residential dwelling units within the second and third stories of the altered mixed-use dwelling. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevation, 6 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, previous decision number affecting the subject property, planning justification letter from the agent, and the site-specific bylaw. We have email correspondence from Heritage Planning, Transportation Services, and Urban Forestry. Do we have the agent online?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good morning, sir. If you could just speak up a little bit, please.
Sorry, is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry. My name is Andrew Palumbo of Ian Hall Planning Limited, and I am the planner and agent for 71 to 89 King Street East, and my address is 38 Betty Nagle Street in Toronto, Ontario. Unfortunately, but thankfully, yesterday, city zoning staff reached out to me in the afternoon to advise that the current public notice that was circulated for this proposed minor variance application, it actually did not include one of the bicycle parking variances to allow bicycle parking spaces within a dwelling unit. And due to this, there was a miscommunication back on August 9th, whereby there was a revised notice that was issued by city zoning staff to the project architect who did submit the zoning review application. But because the architect was traveling at the time for some unknown reason, likely technological, the architect was never in receipt of this email that included the updated zoning notice. And as such, we proceeded with the application in the absence of this updated notice. And that being said, I am kindly requesting a deferral of this application before the committee today in order to allow for a recirculation of an accurate public notice that accurately captures all of the proposed variances as per the August 9th zoning notice. Given that everything is effectively already in place for this application, save and except for this public notice update, it would greatly appreciate being scheduled for the next immediate available C of A agenda accordingly, keeping in mind there's also no city staff or public opposition registered to date. Thank you for your time and consideration of this request this morning, and happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you very much, sir. It sounds like pretty much an automatic deferral. So panel, I'll look to Peter Reed for moves deferral. I have a seconder. Mr. Ghosh, all in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, we return to item number 1. 97 Morse Street. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a partial front ground floor addition with a basement extension below, a new front porch, a rear 2-story addition with basement extension below, a rear 1st-story deck with stairs, a rear 3rd-story roof deck, and the existing rear basement walkout will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, presentation materials from the agent. We have staff reports from TRCA, from Urban Forestry, and 2 from Urban Forestry. Do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent here in person.
Okay, do you want to come up, sir? Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Push the red button in front of you. Is it on?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Great. We can have your name and address, please.
My name is Jomar Manzano, PN, structural engineer and agent for 97 Morse. Our office is at 1468 Danforth Avenue.
Great. Now, before we begin, you've seen Forestry's report seeking a deferral?
Correct. This is why I wanted to speak to the committee today as well.
Okay. All right, sir, you have 5 minutes.
For sure. So thank you again, Mr. Chair and panel. Again, my name is Jomar Manzano, structural engineer at KH Davis Structural Engineering and agent for the homeowners Ginger and Ivan at 97 Morse Street. We were given notice from Urban Forestry a few days ago that we're recommending deferral of our application. We are looking to have the committee to make a decision on our application today, knowing that we will be revising the structure to not include the basement extension that was in contention with our deferral from Urban Forestry. We forwarded our revised design to them a few days ago, but have not heard back. Added, we would be applying for a review of tree protections during permitting as par for the course, so Urban Forestry would be addressed at that time during permitting. If, however, the committee feels that more time is needed for Urban Forestry to review our revised structure, we would be happy to defer our decision until a response from that department is given. Our motivation to obtain a decision now stems from the time it has taken for our hearing date, and we would like to reduce the delay on start of construction on my client as much as possible. But we do understand that Urban Forestry should be part of this conversation, and we recognize that if a deferral is necessary, then we shall do so as well. We have good support from the project, including 3 adjacent neighbors and from the TRCA. We have a few examples of precedents of nearby residential COA decisions approving FSI, variances, encroachment, and landscaping variances.
Thanks, sir. We got his present. Are you going through your presentation?
I'm just
Okay, can we
closing
call
up.
his presentation up, please?
This map
Okay.
shows the precedents in the 500 meter radius from our site area, which is labeled in red. Our variance is, we feel, is minor, as it encompasses 8 meters squared of addition in the rear, and with the removal of the basement addition in the front, it is adding a mudroom to the front of the house so that her kids don't make a mess in the front of the house. So we feel that the additions to my client's house are very minor, and the supporting material hopefully conveys that. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Sorry, did you say you sent in revised plans?
Yes, we received notice on Friday afternoon of last week stating that they would ask for deferral based on a location of the tree in the front of the house and the basement extension that we were proposing. Talking to my client and working quickly, she decided to abandon the basement so that there would be no issue for Urban Forestry's concern.
Oh, sorry, I don't think we have those revised plans, do we?
So committee doesn't have that before. So you've sent it into Urban Forestry, but it hasn't made it to Committee of Adjustment. So quite frankly, we don't really have the basis upon which to make a decision on your application right now.
Okay, then we would then request deferral based on Urban Forestry's request.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions? Does someone want to move a motion to defer? Mr. Reed?
Yeah, I'm happy to move a motion to defer. I think it's important to address Urban Forestry's issues, but also to that will possibly give the client more time to work out a solution. So I think that a deferral will be beneficial for
Okay,
everyone.
great. Motion to defer by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Ghosh. All in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to item number 2. 210 Main Street. This is an application to alter the existing 2-story mixed-use building beyond the previously approved minor variance decision A0836/22TUI by constructing a rear second-story addition and a complete third-story addition with roof access for maintenance. The basement level will be converted to storage and service areas. The first and second stories will be converted to recreational use, and the third story will accommodate 2 residential dwelling units. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of subject trees on the property, a cover letter from the agent, decision number A0836/22TUI affecting the subject property, tree protection plan. We have reports from Metrolinx and Urban Forestry and correspondence in opposition from 2210 Gerrard Street East. Agent online?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Have your name and address, please.
My name is David Choi. My address is 28 Southwood Drive.
Okay, sir. Do we have no speakers,
Through
right?
you, Mr. Chair, there are no registered speakers to this item.
I think perhaps maybe a short presentation, sir, would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the architect. I'm joined with my colleague this morning with our clients. I'm sure my clients will be able to speak.
And now you're breaking up, sir. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
It's better, yes?
Okay, I'll turn up the volume.
That's good, thanks.
Okay. Did you get my address or you want me to repeat that?
No, I think we got it.
Okay, thank you. I'm joined this morning with my colleague and our clients on today's call. Not sure they have the ability to speak, but my clients are available. Thank you for allowing us a chance to come back and present once more. The reason we are here today is we started construction review. And on site, it was determined that both of our neighbors' existing foundation walls would be undermined based on our previous proposal. The reason why we are back today is to ask permission to construct our ground floor higher, almost at grade. So previously we were going down below grade, and we found we were running into underpinning issues and water issues. And both of our neighbors started asking us for encroachment agreements, legal easement agreements, which is why we're coming back here today. So by raising our ground floor slightly above grade, we are asking for a little extra height and a little bit extra gross floor area because of our basement utility rooms to house our electrical and mechanical system. Okay, so the variances we are seeking today is item 5. We're asking for our FSI for all uses. We're asking for 3.06 versus the previous approved 2.88. This nets a difference of 0.18 times lot area. And then the additional GFA is only 66.45 meters, which is really our basement, 2 electrical rooms and mechanical room. The other variance that we're seeking is for FSI for non-residential, asking for 2.21. Before we were at 2.03. The difference is 0.18. And this is very similar. We're only asking for 66.75 square meters. And once again, it's mainly due to the basement mechanical electrical room. The next variance, item 6, is our height. We're asking for 19.5 versus previous 16.95. We're just asking for an additional 2.55 meters. Okay. And the last one that we're seeking is our interior floor.
Through the chair to the agent, sorry to interrupt, the variance numbers you're listing don't correspond to the public hearing notice. Also, I understand you submitted very late revised plans in our very late materials folder. Do you wish to speak to those? And it would also be helpful if you spoke to the variances as per the public hearing notice and their appropriate or according numbers. We have that on the screen right now.
Okay. Sure. You make it a little bit larger, please. Okay, so the first one is the number 1. Okay, so number 1 speaks of Okay, the maximum, so we're asking 2.88. Okay, so the first one is the three, we're asking for 3.06 versus the previous 2.88. Okay, so that, as I mentioned before, we're only asking additional 0.18 times the lot area, or equals to 66.45. That would be number one. Okay, number two, the non-residential, we're asking for 2.21 versus the previous 2.03. And then we're basically, that equates to 0.18 times the lot area, which equates to 66.75 square meters. The third one is the height. Okay, so the third one is the height. So we're asking for 16.95. No, sorry, we're asking for 19.5 versus the previous 16.95. So we're only asking for additional 2.55. And then the last one is a recreational use. So that one we're asking for 679.4 before we're asking for 59155. So we're only asking for additional 87.85 square meters. So those are the variances we're seeking today. Again, basically due to the underpinning of the neighbor's foundation walls. Otherwise, we were very happy with the previous approvals, the minor variance that were granted.
Through the chair to the agent, did you also submit very late revised plans that you want to present and explain the nature of those plans?
Yes, somehow it wasn't late.
Just to be clear, so we don't have that in our supplementary. So, sir, the reason we're asking that is the panel doesn't have that material before us. So does the material that you submitted late reflect the variances that you're currently seeking?
Yes, so the only change, if you can pull it up, I'll show you where the change is the basement plan. Yeah, perfect. So again, respectfully, we did submit. Somehow it wasn't updated. Okay, so we did submit. I wouldn't say, I would say we submitted about 2 months ago. So it must have been a glitch. The only difference is in between the gap between the two spaces. Perfect. So we had to remove that area. So we left the left-hand side and the right-hand side for our utility rooms. So we removed the piece in the middle.
So you have no basement there?
No, so we knew we had to have the incoming service of the water meter. So that's what we're using in the right-hand side.
Okay.
And this doesn't change any of the variances? Sorry.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? All right, seeing no questions, let's take this into committee. Does anyone have an observation or a motion? Peter?
Again, Chair, I think these are reasonable variances, particularly because of where this building is situated between two quite large buildings with blank walls. So I think the impact of these variances are minor. So I would move approval of the application subject to urban forestry condition 2.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 3, which is 36 Uxbridge Avenue. And this is an application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition. There is one variance before us. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, an arborist report, Metrolinx advisory report, and 2 form letters in support from 21 Uxbridge and 34 Pelham. We have the agent online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the agent online, and there are no registered speakers for this item.
Great.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, agent for the application. My address is 2814 Hollington Crescent in Mississauga.
Great, thanks. Hang on a sec, Jay. Panel, do we need a presentation on this one? Seems fairly straightforward. Sir, we we've read all the information. We're familiar with your application. We don't need a presentation this morning. Is there anything you'd like to share with the panel before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, let's go into committee. Dylan?
I'm happy to make a motion on this one. It's really quite a modest variance. There's still lots of room in the back, and in fact, it's also set back from the side as well. So the impact is really minimal. So I think this is minor and easily supportable.
Great. Is that a motion to approve?
It is.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Reed. Metrolinx, is this an advisory?
Through the chair, it's just advisory, but if you want to include it, you can.
It's just advisory.
You rather not include it? Okay, we're not going to include it. Okay, motion to approve by Dylan Reed, seconded by Peter Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next item is item number 4, 1260 Broadview Ave. This is an application to permit the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a front partial first, second, and third-story additions, and a complete third-story addition, a rear cantilevered canopy. There will be a total of 3 residential dwelling units and a triplex on this lot, and the ancillary building in the rear yard will be maintained and unaltered. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, decision number A0682/20 TUI affecting the subject property, and we have several orders to comply. And we have no correspondence from staff, nor any letters in support or opposition. So do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online and no registered speakers to this item.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. My name is Joel Gerber of 23 Doncaster Avenue in the city.
Thank you, sir. Because you've had some orders to comply in a previous decision, I wonder if you could take us through your application fairly quickly, please.
Yeah, I'll endeavor to summarize it briefly. The previous owner had racked up a number of orders. The proposed project looked to kind of undo some of those shoddy workmanship and personal craft projects. The project is a kind of a dilapidated abandoned house that was bought as kind of a purchase of sale. So the owner's vision was to kind of make larger than normal apartments, kind of in combat of the studio approach to many multifamily homes nowadays. Just that was his kind of market approach. So there are 3 fairly large units. The basement is mostly amenities for storage and what have you, and laundry. With regards to the variances, by adding the 3rd floor, there was a slight height increase, which along Broadview with a lot of mid-rise and high-rise in the vicinity, we felt was, not out of context. And really the front setback was because of the stair bump. Part of it was us trying to articulate the otherwise very simple boxy massing. But because the neighbor to the north has an extreme setback of, I think, over 13 meters, the averaging worked against us. So we do have a variance for the front yard setback, but we felt that it's kind of in character with the rest of that section of the street. It's just the neighbor directly to the north is dramatically set back abnormally. And then finally, with regards to the soft landscaping, it's always our mission to kind of, work with those and not propose variances. We are really working with the existing condition, and to be totally honest, we would actually like to kind of work on improving that, back landscaping variable, but, we can, if you guys have any other questions, we can address that.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions, Phil?
Yeah, my question was going to be exactly what you concluded on, is what do you think you can do to improve that soft landscaping? Is there anything that could be removed? I see there's 3 parking spaces in the back. I'm not sure if that's I don't think there's a minimum parking requirement anymore, but you could correct me if I'm wrong for this. Is there anywhere that you can improve if we look at the site plan? Maybe
yeah, no, I'd be happy to kind of, on behalf of the owner, talk about permeable paving. So there is 3 spots, and also you'll notice a previous committee decision that I wasn't involved with, that the owner had got approval for that rear garage. So there's a bit of a situation where we need to provide access to the garage as well as the parking. So, maybe some portion of that could easily become permeable parking just to help with the kind of ongoing stormwater issue.
And so what would you propose? Would you propose everything beyond the back wall of the building could be permeable?
I was going to suggest that maybe outside of the parking, that like drive aisle towards the back could become permeable. So that'd be approximately 33 by 3. No, that doesn't make sense. It'd be 3 meters by approximately 10 meters. So it's almost 30 square meters could be converted to permeable. Just from a maintenance issue, I know that like with tenanted buildings and permeable, there's sometimes ongoing maintenance issues with tenants and permeable paving. So I felt that maybe that asphalt paving in the drive aisle to the back existing garage might be, a low hanging fruit to discuss.
Okay, thanks.
If you're thinking permeable, there's also a concrete walkway. I wonder if that could be similarly.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Let's take this into committee. Phil, why don't you start?
Yeah, so my question, and this is maybe to the, through you to the Secretary Treasurer, is what do you think is the best way, looking at the site plan, to create a condition that would enforce that compromise? Would it be enough to say the area that's the drive aisle between the garage and the parking area, or would it be better to say a minimum of 30 meters squared, since that was the number that the applicant said he thought was achievable?
Through the chair, it's up to the members of how they want to. Either way is fine. You could also combine both of that together to say, in brackets, 30 meters square in brackets.
Yeah, I would say a minimum of 30 meters squared, because I think it probably will be better than that. Okay, so given that, I think as a whole, so I would move, does anyone else want to speak to it before I put forward a motion? So I think this is approvable. I think given the hobby projects that have gone on in this building, something has to be done to bring it into compliance, and the proposal seems appropriate for the location. So for those reasons, I would approve this, but to improve the soft landscaping situation, I would attach a condition that the area marked on the site plan as a concrete walkway and the asphalt paving located in the drive aisle between the parking area and the existing garage be constructed with permeable pavers, and that area be no less than 30 meters squared.
Great, thank you, Phil. Motion by Mr. Ghosh, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval with that condition, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
All right, item number 5, 1557 Bloor Street West. This is an application to alter the existing 4-story detached dwelling as approved under TLAB by converting the existing basement artist studio. Oh, sorry. Before we start, this is the one where all 3 are basically the same. So with the panel's indulgence, perhaps we can just deal with these. The variances are identical for each, so we can deal with these 3 together. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. All right. Can I just get the agent online before I go read these into the record?
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Jamie Cole, and I'm a lawyer at McCarthy Tetro LLP. My address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 5300 in Toronto, postal code M5K1E6. And I'm here on behalf of the owner of 1553 to 1557 Bloor Street West.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there are 3 applications before us for 3 adjacent properties that appear to be virtually identical. Would you have any objection to us combining those three?
No, not at all, sir. Actually, I was going to suggest it as well.
Okay. Then I'll just have you stand by. I think I have to officially read the applications into the record, so everyone have just a little bit of patience, and we'll just do this. I'm going to read in numbers 5, 6, and 7 into the record. Number 5 is 1557 Bloor Street West. This is an application. I read this one in already, did I? No, I didn't complete it. To alter the existing 4-story detached dwelling as approved under TLAB by converting the existing basement artist studio into habitable space. The existing 5 residential dwelling units will be maintained and unaltered. There'll be a total of 6 residential units on this lot. Item number 6 is 1553 Bloor Street West. Similarly, to alter the existing 4-story semi-detached dwelling as approved under TLAB by converting the existing basement artist studio into habitable space, the existing 5 residential dwelling units will be maintained and unaltered, and there'll be a total of 6 residential units on this lot. Item number 7 is 1555 Bloor Street West. This is an application to alter the existing 4-story semi-detached dwelling as approved under TLAB by converting the existing basement artist studio into habitable space. The existing 5 residential dwelling units will be maintained and unaltered, and there'll be a total of 6 residential units on the lot. All right, sir, I'll have you back. And this looks fairly straightforward, sir, but given that there's 3 applications, maybe just a very quick overview of what you're proposing.
Certainly, sir. Thank you. So very briefly, just to provide a bit of background, and as noted in our letter submitted to the committee last week, these properties received TLAB approval back in 2018 that facilitated the original construction of the 3 6-unit buildings that are currently situated on each of the properties. The 3 buildings are essentially identical to one another, and as part of that settlement at TLAB, residential units were permitted on the upper floors and at the rear of each of the lower ground floors for all 3 buildings, but that the front of each building on the lower ground floor would contain a non-residential space, which were intended to be artist studios. So as constructed, each building now contains 5 existing residential units and 1 non-residential space. That being said, the non-residential space in each building has been vacant since the buildings were constructed. And as further outlined in the letter submitted to the committee by the owner's architect, Brander Architects, Inc., the owner has tried for over 18 months to lease the 3 vacant non-residential artist studio spaces, unfortunately without any success, but rather prospective tenants have approached the owner inquiring about leasing these spaces as live-work units, which are not currently permitted as live-work units are technically considered a residential use. So that is why 1 variance is requested to permit residential units at the front of the lower ground floor of each of these buildings. The variance will simply permit a minor modification to the zoning requirement regarding the lower ground floor use qualification to permit the introduction of 1 live-work unit in each of the buildings. Importantly, no external alterations are proposed as part of the applications. I would just add that the proposed variance will facilitate the introduction of 3 much-needed rental units in the city, which, as you know, is currently trying to address a significant housing crisis. And so by introducing these units, 3 new residential rental units will be immediately available for rent on the market and will replace inefficient, underutilized, and continuously vacant non-residential space. And so, again, to be as brief as possible, I would just say that the requested variance meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. With your indulgence, sir, I would just also briefly like to address the Metrolinx report that was submitted in this matter, because Metrolinx has asked for 2 conditions as part of this approval: the granting of an environmental easement as well as warning clauses in future leases, as there is a rail line approximately 275 meters to the east of these properties. With respect and with greatest respect to Metrolinx, we don't think that these requests are appropriate or necessary as conditions of approval for this application. When these buildings were first approved in 2018, Metrolinx did not ask for an easement to be imposed or any warning clauses to be inserted into leases. And frankly, in my respectful submission, that would have been the appropriate time to ask for these conditions, as that is when the buildings were actually being constructed. Again, Metrolinx never asked for anything, and the buildings were then constructed without incident. Indeed, residents have been living in these buildings for years without any impact. adding one residential live work unit in each of these buildings doesn't change the dynamic that currently exists on the property as it relates to the rail line 275 meters away. And so therefore, as this application concerns really an internal reorganization of the lower ground floor, it's really not necessary or appropriate to impose these conditions. So we respectfully request that the variance before the committee be granted for each of the three properties, but without the Metrolinx conditions. And subject to any questions, those are my submissions.
Thank you, sir. This committee typically does not impose Metrolinx's request for an environmental easement, so you're safe there. And I think the warning clause is probably kind of redundant as well. So, all right, any questions? Yes, Phil.
So when you were, so the purpose is to alter the those units because they haven't been able to be leased out over 18 months. How have they been, what sorts of tenants have they been marketed to?
So they were originally marketed as artist studios, and that was discussed in the TLAB decision, actually. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, there has been absolutely no demand, but those who are looking for an artist studio space have reached out actually saying, well, could I live there as well? Which, my client had to turn away because under the current zoning, they can't live there. So that's how it was marketed, and that's really what the intention was as part of the original approval. Unfortunately, as noted, there hasn't been any demand for that.
And have they only been marketed at like market rate retail rent, or how was there any sort of study done for what would be an appropriate rent for an artist studio?
Well, I don't have specifics unfortunately as to what the real estate brokers specifically said in terms of marketing material, but my understanding from what I've been told is that they were marketed, consistent with what artist studios would be marketed as, across the city.
Okay, so I'm going to maybe posit to you a concern I have about these applications and give you a chance to give your position on it. My concern is this is on a retail stretch, a Main Street retail stretch of Bloor Street, very proximate to a subway, the sort of place that we want to enliven. And it seems to me that it was a compromise in the settlement at TLAB that there would still be some sort of animation of the street front by having this sort of use while granting whatever was before it at that time to allow the rental units. And I do think as a whole, these are, interesting buildings that are providing good rental on the street, but we have to balance the concern of those three additional units with what I think was a very intentional compromise that would create units that probably are very difficult to lease, but I'm sure there's a rental point at which they could be leased. And so what would you say to alleviate that concern that we would be sort of undoing an intentional compromise if we granted this variance?
So, and thank you for the question, sir. I would say two things. So the first is just as it relates to the general surrounding area. We did submit a very brief photo book, which really shows that the general area does consist of similar building types containing really a diverse mix of residential and commercial uses at grade. And in this photo book, as you go through the photos, you can see that there are really a diverse mix of building typologies of residential apartments, residential homes, and residential home typologies being used for commercial uses. And so it's truly an eclectic mix along this stretch. And frankly, it's quite different from the rest of Bloor Street, I would say. This is a very unique stretch in which you have this eclectic mix. And so I think having live-work units at the front and on the lower ground floor of each of these three buildings will really contribute towards that eclectic mix. As it relates to the settlement specifically at TLAB, it certainly was our client's intention to offer these spaces as non-residential use. You know, these buildings are constructed, the units have sat vacant now for quite some time. Like our client certainly does not want these units to be underutilized, to be vacant. It was certainly their intention to rent these out as non-residential units. That is why they agreed to the settlement, you know, at this point 6 years ago. So it's certainly not trying to deliberately undo what was agreed upon 6 years ago, but it's just the reality of what the owner is facing in trying to make sure that these units can serve some purpose for the community.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Phil? Or Dylan, pardon me?
Just a couple of questions. First, I mean, we never impose the, in terms of the Metrolinx conditions, we never impose the first one. The second one we usually do, and it's just it's basically a warning clause in the lease. And you know, I understand maybe that wasn't there earlier, but now Metrolinx is doing a lot of work and they've now made this systematic. I was just wondering whether there's a specific reason why you don't want us including that. The warning.
And thank you for the question. At the end of the day, if the committee does deem it appropriate and fit to impose that second condition about the warning clauses, that's certainly something that we can include in future leases. It just goes back to the root of, you know, it's just a bit peculiar why that wasn't imposed, you know, six years ago. But I take your point, sir, that perhaps Metrolinx is more is more in tune and in light of the work that they're doing around this area. So if that's a condition that the committee does want to impose, then that is of course fine.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? One last thing, just looking at the photos from the dwellings front on from Bloor Street, the units in question, are those the ones that are sort of half below grade?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So it's kind of like the basement portion of it, which to your point, Phil, you know, I get the animation aspect of it, but I wonder to what degree that would actually contribute to the animation of the street. Anyways, all right, sir. Thank you very much. We'll take this into committee.
Through the chair, I just want to state for the record that there were no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you. Dylan.
I just want to make a statement before we move on. First, this construction should never have been allowed on a main street. Like, you should never have a half basement like this. It's completely impossible to animate that. It should never have been. That should not be appropriate on a main street where there's commercial. You should have like you know, it should be a proper main floor. I was going I really liked Phil's questions, and I was going to, you know, ask about, you know, how are they going to maybe give priority to artists or something like that. But the fact is that these units are just not very practicable for any kind of commercial use. And it's the construction. So, you know, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now. And under the circumstances, I feel like this is kind of an inevitable change. But I feel like it's also really unfortunate that this form of construction was allowed on this street, because it should be a main street. You should have a full ground floor unit that can be used for commercial or workspace.
Thank you.
I suppose the counter I would say is at a certain rental point in a location like this, someone will take the space and do something with it. There is, you know, it is space on a main street. You know, there's a similar retail space near me that's very marginal on Jane Street that's been taken by someone who just has like a real estate staging business. So there are businesses that at a certain rate they'll take it, and the animation is not just about being able to see into a store. It's also about having businesses located there that support other businesses and support a BIA and all the rest. But But I do get the counter argument that what is this space really good for in this situation at this point either? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would want to defend a space for artist studios, and I think that you made a really good point that perhaps they didn't offer it at a rate that could trigger it. But this is actually a space that wouldn't be that great for an artist studio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of half buried. It's,
Yeah.
you know.
Pretty good location though, right? You're considering it's right next to the subway, right?
Yeah.
And
And the UP Express. And
I
all
almost
that.
wonder if it wouldn't be better to have more density in this particular site, quite frankly, but anyways, irrespective of that, do we have a motion?
I'll do it.
Peter?
Yeah, I completely agree with my colleague's comments. I think that this building isn't really the right format of building for this main street. And Phil, you made some really good points, but I think that ultimately where this is now, allowing these to be actually fitted out as residential units is a positive for the neighborhood and for the city broader.
Hey, Peter, I know what you're going to do. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Nicole, do we want separate motions for each? Can we bundle them as three? How would you like to?
Through the chair, if it's the same motion for all three, that's fine. Just specify for item 5, 6, 7, and that's okay. If that passes, if not, then
Okay.
separate
Peter,
motions.
is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me. So for items 5, 6, and 7, I would like to move approval of the applications.
I think the Metrolinx warning clause, I think we wanted to put that in this.
Sure, with the Metrolinx warning clause for each of them.
Okay. All right. Motion to approve numbers 5, 6, and 7 by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that carries. Mr. Ghosh is opposed. All right. We move on to item number 8. This is 13 Durham Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage with a new driveway, a front porch with stairs, a side entrance, a rear first-story deck with stairs, a rear basement walkout. The existing rear ancillary building will be demolished.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent in person and no registered speakers for this item.
Great. Good morning, sir.
Yes, my name is Joe Doem, 133 Torrensdale Avenue, agent for the applicant.
Great. Panel, do we want a presentation? A short one?
I don't need one, thanks.
Seeing none, sir, thank you for coming down. We've read your application. We're familiar with the materials. It seems it's fairly straightforward. We don't really need a presentation. But before we go into committee, is there anything you'd like to share with the panel?
I would just like to share that there's the main wall on the west side is being retained, and the front yard setback is in existing condition. And there are many similar examples of the requested variances in the area.
Right, and you've talked to all the neighbors, have you?
So there is a letter of support from number 11.
Through the chair, when was that correspondence submitted?
I believe that was yesterday.
Okay, so it's probably past the deadline.
Yeah. Okay, but that's helpful. Thank you.
Is there any chance we can see that letter?
It should
Through the
be
chair.
posted on the public file.
It's too late if it's not in our late materials. It's not in the late
No, we don't have
materials, right?
Okay, but there's no one opposed to this as far as you can tell.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Do you have a question for Dylan?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could just very explain, so I take the existing side yard setback on one side, but on the other side, you're actually building new and intruding into the side yard setback towards number 11, which is why I was interested to see there. I was just wondering if you could explain why that was necessary.
Yes, that 0.9 meter side yard setback, that applies only to the garage portion of that main wall. The rest of the main wall is actually set back to meet the bylaw, and that includes the second floor.
And why did you need to do it for the garage?
to accommodate the legal parking space.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir. We'll go and take this into committee. Anyone have some observations? Phil?
I think this is in keeping with similar renovations in the neighborhood. It's going to create something that's really no more significant than number 11, which is obviously a new construction itself. The variances themselves are quite small. And the separation between the two buildings doesn't concern me that much either, as you can see a lot of similar separation distance examples in the neighborhood. So I'd be happy to go ahead and just move to approve this one for those reasons.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Ghosh, seconded by?
I'll second, but I just wanted to mention that I think the skylights bringing the light down to the second floor is a nice design element. But I'll second that.
Great, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much.
Everyone okay? Does anyone need a break? We're good? Okay, we move on to item number 9, 84 Argyle Street. This is an application to convert the existing one-story ancillary building, semi-detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway, into a two-story laneway suite by constructing a front one-story addition and a complete second-story addition. There will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot, one in the main dwelling and one in the ancillary laneway suite.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Hang on a sec, sir. Ma'am. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of the subject property, staff report from community planning, and a 2-signature petition in support from 82 and 86 Argyle, which are the 2 adjacent properties.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. There are no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent online.
Okay. Good morning.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is Sal Creamy, address 2572 Eglinton Avenue West, here to represent 84 Argyle Street.
Okay, maybe, sir, we could have just a short presentation, please?
Yeah, very brief, and it's one that we're excited about with the current initiatives within the city to add more units. Actually, this is a carbon copy of the recent proposal before committee back in May at 86 Argyle Street, which permitted what you see before it today. So a carbon copy of what's going to happen next door, an additional laneway suite. All variances are the same. Rear yard landscaping variances are the same. We kept it consistent, and why community planning submitted the report tying it to plans to ensure it's built that way. It's straightforward and it is an exception, and we've made sure to coordinate with both neighbors because now 82 is additionally affected, which you see is supportive of it. And at this point, I open it to the committee through you, Mr. Chair, if there are any questions.
Great, thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? This is a mirror image of an existing application or an existing approval. No questions? We have no questions, sir. Thank you very much. We'll take this into committee. You want to take this one on? Sure. Phil?
This is the sort of laneway that laneway housing is supposed to go in. It's a dense neighborhood. You can see large concrete garages, including these ones. And given the lack of opposition from the neighborhood, the variances themselves don't seem so significant, even though there's a number of them. I think it's appropriate to approve this this application.
There is a planning condition tying it to plans?
Yeah, which the applicant spoke to and seems supportive of and seems appropriate.
Okay. All right. Motion to approve by Mr. Ghosh. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. We move
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you. We move on to item number 10, 170 Indian Grove. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by reconstructing a rear cantilevered second floor addition to replace a portion of the existing cantilever sunroom, and a rear third floor addition by converting the existing rear third floor rooftop deck into habitable space with a new rear third floor balcony, and also to construct a 1-story ancillary carport with 2 parking spaces and storage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. The existing semi-detached ancillary building will be maintained and unaltered. Okay, committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of trees on the subject property, presentation materials from the agent. We have staff report from TTC, correspondence and support from 161, 163, 168, and 172 Indian Grove. Okay, we have the agent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online and no registered speakers.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. If you could have your name and address, please, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Victoria Soon, architect at Buildex Design. I am the agent for this file. Address is 53 Greenlaw Avenue.
Okay, ma'am, if we could have a short presentation, please.
Sure thing. Right, so the proposed renovation primarily is involving the 2nd floor interior and a 3rd floor partial addition. We can go to the next page. Just highlighting the site plan, and we can go to the next page. This is the site survey. For the most part, we are keeping the existing condition. Yes, next page is the proposed carport at the back that backs onto the laneway, and then the 2nd floor addition that kind of sticks out to the rear of the property. Next page. Part of the minor variance we're requesting is for landscaping. If we go to the next page, simply keeping the existing landscaping as noted in red. There is existing hard landscaping, but this would be the minor variance we're requesting based on the existing landscaping conditions. If needed, we can propose for possibly permeable pavers as well. Next page. Just some various properties nearby also requesting similar variances for landscaping. Next page. And this would be involving the ancillary building. We are requesting a variance for additional ancillary building. This is because of the existing storage kind of building that is on site. So in building the carport, we would be increasing the percentage for ancillary building. Next page. So just highlighting here, there is an existing ancillary structure. It is brick and it's quite a sturdy structure. So the owner is hoping to keep that in place. And then again, building the proposed carport that would push us beyond the typical 10%. So requesting relief here. Next page. And just highlighting a couple of properties within the neighborhood that have exceeded that amount in a similar fashion. Next page. And then looking at the max height of the main walls. So we are proposing an addition that is keeping to the max building height, but the main walls do exceed the 8.5 meters. So requesting relief to 9.4 meters. Next page. So just highlighting here the additional increase to the main wall to accommodate the height requirement in building that addition on that 3rd level so that we can meet building code. Yeah, so next page. And again, some examples within the neighborhood that exceed that main wall height. So just sharing some examples. And lastly is the floor space index, requesting relief from 0.6 to 0.68 for that minor addition on that third level. Again, some examples within the neighborhood, increasing the FSI. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Just one question to confirm that the carport is going on that kind of the elevated portion of the backyard, and it's not.
That's correct.
Okay, it's limited to that area, yeah?
Exactly,
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
Anyone else?
In terms of the permeable pavers, do you have any suggestions as to where those might be able to be applied and how we could identify that?
Sure, one option would be to extend on the south portion in and around the existing ancillary structure. Could be possibly around there. I believe we would want to keep some of that hardscaping towards the main house as to accommodate some outdoor, living space and whatnot. But an option would be, if landscaping is concerned, to maybe increase the percentage landscaping toward that south tree towards the middle of the property, and perhaps making some of that permeable to appropriate percentage of the rear lot.
So could you give us a number, maybe square meters that we could identify as being to be converted of the existing hard non-soft landscaping to be converted to permeable pavers?
Okay, yeah, I would propose 10 square meters.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Let's take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, I think this is overall very reasonable. I'm pleased that it's being proposed a carport rather than a garage. I think that really helps minimize the impact of that extra ancillary structures. So I think that makes a difference. Otherwise, it seems to be quite a thoughtful design and well thought out. The one concern was the landscaping. So I think if I move a motion, I think I would include a requirement that 10 square meters of the existing non-soft landscaping be converted to permeable pavers.
Anyone concerned about the third floor balcony? Peter, you mentioned that there's a significant grade change in the rear, so maybe it's not that much of an issue.
Maybe, yeah. That didn't pop out to me. I think partly because the house is not as deep as its neighbors, so I think maybe the buildings themselves, the adjacent houses kind of cover that view, overview, I think. And both neighbors are in support. I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that the fact that neighbors are in support, I think, is significant.
Okay.
Through the chair to member Dylan Reed, regarding the 10 meters square, so would that be amending the actual variance, including?
Well, no, because this doesn't count as soft landscaping, right?
Okay, so this will just be an extra condition, just for clarity?
Permeable.
Just for permeable pavers.
For permeable pavers,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
10% of what is indicated as hardscaping will be constructed with, 10 meters
10
squared.
meters squared, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Was that a motion?
It can be, yes.
All right. Motion by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Ghosh. Oh, there's a TTC
Oh, yeah, with
condition.
also the TTC conditions 1 and 5.
Okay. Again, motion by Mr. Reed with the condition from TTC and a requirement for an additional 10 meters squared of permeable pavers in the rear yard. Seconded by Mr. Ghosh. All in favor? You have your approval with those conditions. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Item 11, 5 Rednor Road. This is an application to alter the existing 1.5-story detached dwelling by constructing front and rear second-story additions. The 2 existing residential dwelling units will be maintained, one within the basement and one occupying the first and second floors. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, and a staff report from urban forestry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent on the line, and we do have an interested speaker registered at the address of 88 Larchmont Avenue. I just want to check with the audience, everybody's that's here. Is there anybody from that address that wishes to speak in interest to this application? Again, the address is 88 Larchmont Avenue. Okay, seeing none, thank you. We've also reached out electronically multiple times to this speaker at 88 Larchmont Avenue, and we're unsuccessful at reaching them.
Okay, thank you. And it's interest, not opposition?
That's correct.
All right, we have the agent, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee, and members of committee staff. My name is Giorgio Lolos. I have a 220 Duncan Mills Road, Toronto, Ontario, representing the file in front of us today.
Great, thank you. Hang on a sec, sir. Notwithstanding the person in interest, this seems quite straightforward, folks. Does anyone really need a presentation? I think we're okay. It's just FSI. Sir, we've read the application. We're familiar with the material. We don't need a presentation on this one today. Before we take it into committee, is there anything you'd like to share with the panel?
To you, Mr. Chair, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, panel. It does seem quite straightforward. Paul?
Start over?
Yes, start over.
Again, the documentation and the application is quite complete. The requested variance is minor in nature. It is in keeping with kind of what we're seeing in that neighborhood, so I recommend we approve this application.
There's forestry condition 2.
Forestry condition 2, thank you.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Gogan to approve the application, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Item number 12, 322 Euclid Avenue. This is an application to demolish the existing 2-story detached dwelling and construct a new 2.5-story detached dwelling with a front porch and stairs, green roof on a portion of the front and rear 2nd story, and a rear ground floor patio with an in-ground swimming pool. The existing garage will be maintained and unaltered. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan received October the 11th, 6 photographs of trees on the subject property, email correspondence from the agent, decision number A0029/23TEY affecting the subject property, email correspondence from Transportation Services. We have 2 form letters in support from 324 and 320 Euclid, and 1 form letter in support from 268 Euclid. We have the agent, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thanks very much. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairperson and committee members. My name is Trevor Wallace, and I'm the principal at Reflect Architecture and the authorized agent and applicant on behalf of the owners and residents at 322 Euclid Avenue, for which we're seeking the minor variances.
Great, sir. I think we'll need a short presentation, particularly focused on what's changed from your previous approval.
Sure. The previous approval is not needed in consideration with regards to this application, in the sense that nothing about this application is an iteration or evolution of that. That is old and discarded, and this is an entirely new application. Any questions before I proceed?
No, please. Oh, sorry, Phil, go ahead.
I would say maybe focus a little bit on the soft landscaping.
You betcha. In summary, as noted, it's a demolition of the existing 2-story dwelling with a new 2.5 story third. The total area of GFA is 280 square meters, and we are seeking 8 minor variances. The first variance is a proposed front yard setback at 1.64 meters, where permitted is 2.6. However, the existing is 1.65, so essentially maintaining the existing front yard setback. Number two, and to speak to soft landscaping, of course, the proposed rear yard soft landscaping is 20%, where a required is 50%. However, I'd like to note two things. One is that the existing garage occupies almost half the rear yard at 42%. And if that wasn't included, the rear soft landscaping would be at 35%. And then additionally, I'd like to note that on the second floor, at the rear, there's 10 square meters of green roof being proposed, plus an additional 3 square meters of green roof roughly at the front. So while it is not on grade, we did intend to make up, or do hope to make up that number by adding green roofs on the existing building. Number three, building depth. The proposed building depth is 20.8 meters and a permissible 17. But another thing to note, of course, is that the second floor is set back from the rear, and the third floor is also set back further from that, such that the building depth at the rear would be 14 meters at the second floor. Sorry, I apologize. 6.8 meters at the second floor and 3.3. The floor space index is proposed at 0.9, noting that the existing approved neighbor was moved at 1.3. And number five, the side yard setback proposed is 0 to reflect the existing 0 lot line. Number six, the front platform encroachment. The proposed front porch encroaches 1.86 meters into the front yard setback. Note that, of course, in consideration of context, this was intended to essentially match what was existing and be in keeping with what is with the neighbor at 324 Euclid. So it doesn't encroach past the existing porch. And again, we're trying to maintain the streetscape and the aesthetic along the front. Number seven, the exterior stair encroachment. The proposed front porch stairs are encroaching into the front yard setback and are 0 meters from the front yard lot line. But again, there was a communications with Transportation Services regarding this matter, and Mr. Vincent Sitsu noted that he had no concern with regards to this encroachment. And again, it is an intent to maintain the existing aesthetic between the neighbors. The last one, number 8, is the swimming pool within a rear yard setback. The proposed pool is a setback 0.15 meters at the north side. But one thing to note is that obviously the rear yard is relatively narrow, and we did indeed get a letter of support from our neighbor to the north, to which this is a close proximity setback. In summary, the owners have reached out to the neighbors, both next door and in the neighborhood, and have received letters of support from the adjacent neighbors with regards to the minor variances that we are seeking. As per the application, we feel the proposal meets the other zoning bylaws and is received positively with no opposition from the neighbors. The new home is designed to meet the needs of the owners and their family, with the overall footprint similar to the existing home and in keeping with the neighborhood scale, cadence of streetscape, and the spirit of the previously approved applications within the immediate area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Panel, questions? Phil?
Would it be acceptable to have a condition that we tie it to the plans with respect to the size and location of the green roofs?
Indeed, I feel that would be fair.
Okay, Dylan?
Yeah, so can you just explain, so the plans aren't super clear. What's that big non-soft landscaping thing that dominates the backyard that's beside the pool?
It's just a patio.
Okay, so you got a big...
Referring to just below?
You got a big patio, and then the pool is right beside it.
Yeah, so where it says the word lot on the screen being shown, that is an existing patio, where there would be like a dining set or something similar.
Where it'd be what, sorry?
A dining set or something similar.
I see, okay. Got it.
I'll be quite honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with 20% in the rear yard. I mean, that includes a swimming pool, right? So it really limits
it does,
what the amount of soft landscaping in a fairly tightly packed urban fabric. Is there anything you can do to improve that?
I mean, our hopes that the additional 13 meters picked up as green roof would be sort of a pretty major pickup of soft landscaping on the site in totality as seen from above. So, I mean, ideally with the existing gardens, the pool, and the green roofs as proposed, that we're feeling that there's a fair bit of improvement with regards to watershed on the site.
Okay. So you're not really proposing to do anything different in the rear yard, but you're putting a green roof in?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, we could look at permeable pavers if that's a meaningful adjustment in the eyes of the committee, but again, bringing up the existing rear yard softscape from 21 meters to roughly 34 meters is a pretty meaningful jump with regards to the inclusion of the green roof, if that was part of that calculation.
So were you saying that the patio could be constructed with permeable pavers?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that might help. It seems like the patio is really quite large, so.
Okay. Anyone else? No one? Okay, let's go into committee.
I'd say on the patio, it appears large on the site plan because this is a very small and very constrained lot. I don't actually think the patio is that large. It seemed to have an indication of just 7 meters squared. My thought on the soft landscaping was to tie it to the green roof in the plan, but I'm open to also imposing a permeable paver condition if we think that's going to.
Yeah, frankly, I think that would be probably a nice thing. I take your point, it's small, but on the other hand, 20% versus 50, it's a fairly significant gap.
It is.
Okay, anyone else? Peter?
I'd just say, I think this is a well-designed proposal. I think it is relatively deep, but there are a lot of deep houses in this neighborhood. And I think it has been sensitive in its stepping down, and I do really appreciate the green roof element that they've proposed elements. So I'm happy to move approval of this application, tying it to the site plan, specifically in regard to the green roofs that have been proposed in the front and rear, and with the condition that the rear patio be constructed with permeable pavers.
Great, okay. Motion by Mr. Reed with those conditions. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Ghosh, all in favor? We have your approval with those conditions, sir. Thank you very much.
And through the chair, that's the revised site plan that was received by the committee October 11th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, everyone want to continue to plow on? Okay. 5-minute break. Ready? All right, we continue with item number 13, 239 Torrens Ave. This is an application to permit the conversion of an existing one-story ancillary building to a garden suite with one undersized parking space and a one-story side addition that was constructed without an authorized building permit. The existing 1.5-story detached main dwelling on the lot will be maintained and unaltered. There will be a total of 2 dwelling units on the lot, one in the main dwelling and one in the garden suite. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan received October 29th. Revised zoning waiver received October 29th. 6 photographs of the subject property, covering letters from the agent, email correspondence from the agent. We have email correspondence from Transportation Services and from Community Planning. We have a 24 signature petition in support signed by owners occupants of 1081 Pape and several addresses on Torrens Avenue, received October 29th.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent here in person, and we do have 2 registered speakers listed in interest who are online.
Great, thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Trevor Gain. I'm the agent applicant here on behalf of the owners. I'm 10 Celebrity Place in Markham.
Great. I think we're going to need a presentation, sir, and obviously without a building permit, we'll need you actually to address that issue as well.
Right. The application before you, I believe, is fairly simple. This was a little one-story accessory building that was built, basically a cabana is what the owner prepared. How it got built and exactly when, I'm not sure. That was before my time, but most of the time it's just bad advice from a contractor that was doing it. However, it's kind of been a lifelong struggle for the owners, health issues, and the cabana was meant to be a place for them to enjoy the backyard during the summer months based on her mobility issues. However, the last couple of years, she is now fully wheelchair bound, and so now this cabana structure is going to be converted to a garden suite so that she can reside there and move about freely. So the 4 variances that we have before you, 2 variances 2 and 3 are directly relating to setbacks. That is just 100% related to a definition change. As a cabana, the setbacks are okay, but as a garden suite, a greater setback is required. We have an undersized parking space. That's just a result of where they put it. Transportation is okay with that. And the other variance that sort of generates most of the concern with this panel and community planning is the soft landscaping. So I'll speak to that. As I mentioned, the backyard is a very long, narrow backyard. We have a driveway that goes right into the back to the structure. Before this little addition was built, there was a deficiency in soft landscaping. It was never 50% soft back there. There's permeable pavers, there's a deck, and the remaining is some grass. And I think it was like 26% soft at the get-go. After this little addition, that's the variance we're seeking, 18%. However, speaking with community planning and this revised site plan that's in front of you, we've agreed to convert some of the permeable pavers in kind of the northeast corner of this backyard and bring the soft landscaping back up to 23%, which is almost sort of a cut and paste net gain back to 0 from where we started at. Not ideal. I think there's a door in that little section there, but the broader picture here is the structure. So as I mentioned, 4 minor variances, but if approved today, these are life-changing for the owners. Just the fact that they will live in the structure, small house, wheelchair. It's much simpler to reside in this type of structure versus in the main house, which will still be occupied by family members. So all in all, we have worked with community planning. We've circulated through all the neighbors. Everybody is receptive. They understand the plight of this family, and we seek your approval today.
Thank you, sir. So you're amending variance number 1 to 23%?
That's correct.
Okay. And can we pull up the revised site plan? So maybe you can you said you want to convert some to permeable?
Yeah, on the site plan in front of you, there's a bubbled area kind of on the right, just below the existing deck and the 2 bicycle spots. Currently, that's hardscape. and we can simply put whatever that percentage back in that little location. And this still allows a strip of pavers to go from the deck back to the garden suite. And I would just mention that little jog in the deck, that's a lift for the wheelchair. And then where the bikes are, there's actually some tables and chairs. And then there's a spa that's used for the owner's circulation. She uses in the summer month. Then after that, it's just the entrance to the garden suite. So, you know, the numbers are there, but that the existing pavers are, it's not just a wide open space as we may have seen some other applications. It's actually used. And ultimately, it's also just a sense of being that as the owner can wheel around her backyard, we have the asphalt driveway and we have the pavers, so she's not on the driveway. The driveway is a driveway and the pavers are sort of her space. So I think mentally, that's why the pavers are there as well.
Okay, so I'm clear. So that dark line that goes across, so anything below that is you're making permeable?
It'll be soft, so grass. Where the word new planter is?
Yeah, I got that. That's going to be soft, but above that, where it says existing pavers, are you planning to convert those to existing or to permeable, or are you keeping?
Those already are permeable.
Well, those are permeable.
Yes.
Thank you. That's helpful. All right. We have our first speaker.
And through the chair, just to clarify for the record, so variance 1 that's being amended by the agent to 23%, we just need to verbally state, we had it on the screen in writing, but we need verbally the meter square stated on the record.
45.23 meters squared.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions before we go to speakers? I think we'll just go straight to speakers. Thank you.
Brenda Marshall, you have been unmuted.
My question to
Oh,
be...
sorry, ma'am. Hold on a sec. If you could just, for the record, state your name and address, please.
My name is Brenda Marshall. I live at 232 Gamble Avenue. My property, that property is right behind my property.
Okay, go ahead.
The garden, I'm just concerned a bit about, firstly, about the closeness to the back of the property and to my property. It's only... it's 0.7 from the meters from the rear. That's one question. I'm concerned, can they make any changes to this garden suite, i.e. go up any further, given that they've gone to the north, the east side of it without a permit, and even putting windows in the back. I mean, I understand that this is for the owner to be able to move around. I get that. But that's just my concern, the closeness and the amount of space on the property. And could I put a garden suite in the back there, that close to the property line?
All right, ma'am, thanks very much. We'll ask Mr. Gain to respond to your questions in a moment. Did you have a question of the?
Yeah, I do have a question of the speaker. So as the chair mentioned, the applicant will have a chance to address your concerns. I'm just wondering, so your concerns have been noted and they will be addressed in terms of what could be built in the future, windows, that sort of thing. But it sounds like this sort of footprint is what currently exists there. As it is right now, does it affect you in any sort of way, or is it sort of an acceptable condition just as it is?
As it is, it's a very acceptable structure. It's clean and it really basically gives me privacy in my yard. But it does concern me that originally it was just a garage and it went up and now it's gone to the side. And I don't know, I wonder about building permits and how safe that is. I guess I'm more concerned about, is it going to be used for an Airbnb eventually? Like what happens when this owner, I understand the owner is wheelchair bound and needs accessibility to the yard. But when that is no longer needed, what then for the structure? What's the next move?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. We can have the next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is John Gordon Coots, and I reside at 241 Torrens Avenue.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Does everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, wonderful. In regards to the proposed variances, my only concern, similarly, is any encroachment on potential building on my property, setbacks, as it is on our lot to the east. I'm excited about the additional proposal for soft landscaping in the back. That's my only concern.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions of the speaker? No? Okay. Is that it for our speakers? That's it?
Yes, that's everything for me. Otherwise, I'd like to be marked as in support of the proposed variances.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Gain.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Working backwards, so in terms of encroachment, no, there's no encroachment. We have the side yard setback, which is the variance in front of you. And what you see in front of you in terms of the photographs on the site and the site plan, that is the as-built condition as we mentioned. So there's no additional construction required. The inside the space, it's just framed in studs. It's not finished out. It got stopped at the right time. So there's lots of opportunity now to, when we do apply for a building permit, if there's any structural changes or whatever happened that wasn't done properly under the proper consultants, that can easily be changed. That kind of addresses one of the comments behind as well about future building permits. As far as the neighbor behind, that is the existing structure. So in the site plan in front of you, there's a dashed line that kind of separates like 2/3, 1/3 of that structure. That's the existing garage, so that is the existing setback. What we did, or what they did, is they just extended that setback directly to the east, and that's what's generating the minor variance. And also, as I mentioned, because this is now a use change, a definition change, garden suites generate a larger rear yard setback. So in theory, if they were going to put a second floor on top of this garage as a garden suite, the setback would have to be pushed in, but the ground floor structure could remain as is, which again, we're just sort of fighting for every inch we can, and inside it just made sense to line it all up. So we took the variance is generated from that. As far as windows or any other changes, most of it is really just whatever the zoning bylaw will allow, and of course building code. So as a building code condition, you cannot put any openings on that rear wall, south wall, west wall, simply because of the proximity to the property lines. We need 1.2 meters, and we have a lot less than that. So there's no proposal, and again, it's built, it's all set up. It just needs to be outfitted now for a building permit and the change of use. In terms of future use, Airbnb, I can't speak to the future, but there's no intent on that. If the bylaws allow Airbnb and these owners, next owners, and whoever might want to use that, that's within every right of theirs, and obviously for the proper approvals, they can do that. But in the interim and what's before you, it's meant to be a habitable space for the owners based on her mobility issues.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Let's go into committee. Anyone want to start us off? Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, this is charming, frankly, and I think it really addresses, you know, a need for the owners without really having any impact, any significant external changes at all. I totally understand the need for the pavers because of the mobility needs. That makes sense. Yeah, they're already permeable, and certainly someone in a wheelchair needs to be able to get around and can't do that in soft landscaping. And I think that I'm glad that the city and the owners have worked out a way to improve the soft landscaping a little bit. That really helps as well. So, I mean, overall, I think this is, and for the neighbor, I mean, there's not going to be any impact. I understand the neighbor, the rear concerns, but she can be reassured that, in fact, there's going to be no visible change at all to the structure that she currently experiences, and that doesn't cause a problem at the moment. So overall, I think this is a really thoughtful and modest proposal, and I'm happy to move a motion to approve it with the planning condition.
Right, it's an amended application?
Oh, the amended application, yes, with the planning condition.
All right, motion to approve by Mr. Reed, seconder. Mr. Ghosh, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 14, we've already deferred. We move on to item number 15, which is 119 Brookside Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2.5-story building, which is a fourplex with a front covered porch, front and rear basement walkouts, front and rear second-story balconies, front and rear third-story terraces, a rear ground floor deck, a rear exterior stairs on all stories. Also to construct a new 2-story ancillary building, a garden suite, and in the rear yard of the property. There will be a total of 5 residential dwellings on this lot, 4 in the main dwelling and 1 in the garden suite. It has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan received October 29th. A red line public notice received October 29th. Covering letters from the agent, arborist report, and presentation materials from the agent. We have staff report from Metrolinx. We have correspondence and opposition, significant amount from, I'll try and capture all this, 129, 121, 108, 160, 97, 89, 162, 107, 122, 155, 198, 151, 171, 117, and 154, all from Brookside Avenue. Oh, we have more. 77, 32, 116, 87, 129, 38, 124, and 120, all from Brookside. And from 70 Watson, we have 18 form letters in support from, again, several properties on Brookside and St. Mark's Road. We have correspondence in opposition from, additional correspondence in opposition from 101, 110, 61, 111, 102, 65, all Brookside Avenue. We have 1 form letter from 115 Brookside, and materials in opposition from 117 Brookside.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent here in person as well as multiple speakers in opposition.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm Noam Hazan of 976 Glencairn Avenue, and I'm the agent for the owner of 119 Brookside.
Okay, sir. Clearly, we need a presentation from you.
Yeah, so there is a presentation. It's a revised presentation. It's in the late folder, I was told to say.
You've made changes to the variances as well, right?
Yeah, we've made changes, but we've also submitted additional plans to accommodate.
Okay, so are you going to address those in your presentation, or do we need to deal with those right now?
We can deal with them now.
Why don't we, can we go through the public notice right now, and you can let the panel and those in attendance today know what changes you've made?
Sure. Will this be part of the 5 minutes? Because it's quite a bit.
I'll let you do this, and then we'll go to the 5 minutes.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so of the 5 original variances, we've eliminated 3. We did see the letters of opposition, and we did try to accommodate as many of those variances as possible. I'll just go through those changes with you. Okay, so the 3 variances that we removed. We revised our design to enhance privacy for the neighbors, and that's by pushing back the 3rd floor terraces away from the property lines. The front facade has also been redesigned to mitigate privacy issues with regards to the front porch. And we've increased the front yard landscaping to 116.8%.
Sorry, so just to be clear, so you're eliminating variance 1?
We've eliminated, we've eliminated 3 variances. I'll tell you.
Can we just go through them in order, just so
hard to see it from here.
It's up there, so if you can just take us through that, please.
Let me just see. I think it's in the. Okay. So the one that we've eliminated is, I can't see the number here, but it's chapter 10, 5, 40, 52.
That's number 1.
That's number 1.
Okay, that's number 1. So we eliminated that variance, basically in relation to the setbacks of the top floor terraces.
Okay.
We pushed back where those are.
And number 2, you're keeping?
I can't see what number 2 is from here, but what is number 2?
10, 80, 40, 70.
This is the minimum side yard setback.
Yes, 10, 80, 40, 70. We are maintaining that one. It is an improvement from the existing house. but that one is one that we are maintaining on the north side. And on the south side, we have a 1 meter setback, which is 1.2, which the actual condition is 1.2 meters. So
Number 3?
we're maintaining. Number 3, which one is that one? Sorry.
Looks like you're eliminating this one. This is the
think that's the
platform
front.
without main walls?
I think that's to do with the front porch, is it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so the front porch, so basically it was a distance, the staircase was too close to the lot line. We're pushing it in, we reconfigured the front facade to basically eliminate that variance. And actually,
Ma'am, oh, sorry, that's us. Sorry.
so yeah, we eliminated that variance as well. So we reconfigured the front yard, the front porch in order to comply. And then the other one is the front yard landscaping, which we also eliminated, and we increased dramatically to 116%, basically. So those are the 3 that are eliminated. The other one that remains is to do with the rear yard landscaping. And that I think we increased it slightly, but it's 50, instead of 50% rear yard landscape softscaping, it's 40.54. And we're also okay to accommodate permeable pavers as well in the rear.
Sorry, it looks like, so it's currently 36.72% and 42.27 meters. Did you say you're changing?
We've increased that, yeah, now to
What?
40.54% to 46.68 meters.
Great, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That clarifies the variances before us. Now, if you could take us through your application.
Sure, yeah, if we can just get the late presentation up. I think that is the one. Okay, so I just want to quickly summarize sort of the project. So it's a 4-plex accompanying a garden suite at this property. The project aligns with the EHON initiative. If you can go just to the next slide. EHON initiative bylaw amendment 649. Our project directly supports Toronto and Ontario's strategic goals for increasing gentle density within established neighborhoods. The EHON initiative encourages the development of multiplexes, promoting a diverse housing landscape within the city. Multiplex bylaw 649 permits construction of duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes across the city, which aligns with our proposal, and garden suite bylaw is allowed as of right, which we are incorporating into our design. Importantly, the neighborhood has been zoned for RM for many years, permitting buildings with 4 units long before the multiplex bylaw was enacted. Our clients, next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Our clients are community builders, and they're focused on building rental housing. We believe the project will deliver diversity of the existing housing stock, create valuable opportunities for couples and young families and seniors who want to downsize and stay connected to their communities, and foster long-term ownership and investment in the local area. Next slide, please. This site is exceptionally well connected, offering significant advantages. There's a 6-minute walk to the TTC bus stop, 4-minute bus ride to Jane subway station, lots of local amenities, all in walking distance, including schools, parks, grocery stores, restaurants, etc. There is a dedicated bike path along Runnymede, just 5 minutes, a 5-minute bike ride away. And the use of a multi-trail along the Humber River, also a 3-minute bike right away. Next slide, please. The neighborhood is rich in green spaces, particularly the Humber River nearby. Next slide, please. We are proposing development in an area that benefits from existing services and infrastructure, including mixed-use areas, employment areas, all within close proximity and walking distance. Importantly, RM zoning permits buildings with 4 units, supporting our proposal for a 4-plex and a garden suite. Next one, please. So as we discussed at the beginning of this presentation, we did reduce the variances. There were actually 13 variances originally, which we reduced to 5. And then seeing the letters from the community, we've reduced it further to 2 minor variances. And this was based on the feedback from the community. We also engaged the neighbours on either side of us. So the neighbour on the north side, we've had discussions with her. I believe she might be here today, and we have tried to address her concerns with regards to window placements, with regards to landscaping and sort of water runoff. We have tried to engage the neighbour on the south side. We have not received a response. We do welcome a conversation to see if we can also address their concerns, but we have not heard back. My client went in person, knocked on the door, nobody answered, and left a letter as well. Next slide, please. So I think we've gone through the ones we removed. I think we can keep going. Yeah, so this is just showing basically the site plan. You can see already the condition. There is we are increasing the side yard setback on the north side marginally from the existing building. We do have a minor variance on the south side, which I think represents like a 17% increase basically of what the permitted south side yard setback is. If we keep going. So the neighborhood, actually, the sort of nature of the neighborhood, there are a lot of very small, shallow side yard setbacks in that neighborhood. On the presentation, you can see all those buildings and houses that are being highlighted on that slide all have less than the compliant amount of 1.2. So really the look and feel of the neighborhood, it really plays in character with the neighborhood. There's an extensive list in the presentation later on that shows other properties that have very minimal side yard setbacks, significantly lower than, some lower than what we are proposing. I have them here, so just as an example, 109 Brookside is 0.3 on one side, 0.6. 115 Brookside is 0.1 on one of the setbacks. And these are all the properties really in that neighborhood. If we go to the next slide. So with regards to the other variants, the softscape, the garden suite, because of the size of, because of the garden suite, the nature of it, we weren't able to get a full 50%, but we have really tried to accommodate and increase that amount. And again, the client is okay to put permeable pavers wherever there is a hardscape. Can we go to the next slide, please? You can see from this Google Maps image that there are a lot of rear yards without any soft yard landscaping in the neighborhood. Particularly with hardscape in those neighborhoods, whether they've gone through permit or not, that's another question. But there are a lot of rear yard landscapes with the same condition or significantly worse. Could we go to the next slide, please? Here are sort of another list of all the precedents from committee that have been approved in the neighborhood on that street, in particularly a lot of examples where this condition has been permitted. Next slide, please. Finally, we do think that this proposal does satisfy the 4 tests of the minor variance. It's minor in nature, desirable for appropriate development, maintains intent of the zoning bylaw, maintains intent of the official plan. Last page, please. And then just in terms of the size of the project, there are a lot of very similar size massing houses in that neighborhood, 3-story buildings. There are other multiplexes. 17% of the street is multifamily, consists of multiplexes. And we do think that this really ties in line with the recommendations made by the city and by the province for increasing gradual density into the city.
Thank you very much, sir. Panel, any burning questions before we go to speakers? Okay, let's go to speakers.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, we can start with the speakers that are here in person. We can start with the occupant from 117 Brookside Avenue. If you could please come up to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I guess you know I'm from 117 Brookside now.
If you could, just for the record, though, your
sure.
name and address, please, sir.
Bruce Pratt, I'm 117 Brookside, which is the property immediately adjacent to the project we're looking at.
Okay.
And I submitted a presentation deck, and if we could call that up, that would be just great. Yep, so I've lived on Brookside for 32 years. I've raised my family in the house, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. And what I really want to do is address certainly the variance. I understand that's what's significant to the Committee of Adjustment, but also counter some of the suggestions of precedent that were made by the agent. So if I could have my next slide, please. So I'd really argue that this proposal is not a suitable development for the neighborhood. It's largely a street of fully detached homes. 83% of the houses on the street are fully detached. We currently have no fourplexes, and there are no garden suites. The agent talked about the, this development aligning with the goals of EHON, but when I looked into EHON, really it's about maximizing density and maximizing the revenue, and I've got to suggest that this is not a gentle increase in density. We don't feel that the setbacks are minor variances, particularly with regards to the soft surface landscaping. They talk about relative to what's allowed. When you look at what is removed from existing, it's a very significant decrease. And they talk about making accommodations to it. Really, when we're left with what they've got as variances, those are what really drive the major aspects of this project that the residents of the street are not happy with. So taking decks off, adjusting decks, that's cosmetic stuff. They don't really address the density on this really small lot. So if I could have my next slide, please. So, I've already talked to this. This really just shows what the current composition is and how a fourplex with a garden suite is not consistent with what we've already got on the street, largely single-family homes. Can I have my next slide, please? So there are a couple of triplexes. You can see them pictured there. They have significant soft surfaces. They also provide parking. They've also been there since the late 1950s. And the one on the 112 Brookside is in fact kind of a single family home in that the owner of the triplex lives on the middle floor with her 2 grandkids in the other suites. Can I have the next slide, please? So the agent brought up that there was a lot of precedence for the setbacks, and his slide title is a little misleading because it says these are or implies that these are multi-family residents. Only the 2 in the bottom there that are the triplexes are multi-family. The rest are all single-family homes. Mine's pictured there, the 3rd on the top row, 3rd from the left. What wasn't brought up there was those houses were all built on existing foundations, so the setbacks were grandfathered. There's 1 or 2 cases where they did change the existing setback, but those were on lots that were severed. So basically all those just went straight up and weren't looking for any decreased setback from the existing properties. Could I have the next slide, please? I'm not going to go through this. You guys have had a chance to read it. They talk about the expanded housing options in neighborhoods. They're really just looking at maximizing rent. You can see the rest of the conditions there aren't really being fulfilled by this proposal. May I have my next slide, please? So this is the variance on the south side. This is a photo from my deck looking down. That current setback to the green fence is 2 meters. They're looking at reducing that. And when you look at the garbage pails that are there provide you some sort of context for how narrow that's going to be. I don't see how you're going to have any access to that back suite by reducing that to a 1 meter setback. May I have my next slide, please? So we talk about parking. The agent talked about the walkability of the neighborhood and all that. Those are conditions that are currently there, and we still have parking issues. So I'd really discount any of the references to public transit. And there's no guarantee that people that aren't coming here are going to have cars, whether they walk a lot or not. May I have my next slide, please? Okay, so this is where I'm really concerned. When you look at putting 28 people potentially on 272 square meters, you're looking at a population density of 103,000 per kilometer. So that's a significant increase over, I think it's about 4,500 on average for the city of Toronto. There's no way this is gentle density.
Sir, I'm just going to ask you, I know you've got a recap slide, so I wonder if you could go right to that.
If I could, sure. I just want to address he did point out that they came and knocked on my door on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. This was the letter that was left wedged into my mailbox, so there hasn't really been any meaningful consultation at all. And yes, so my recap slide really just emphasizes that this is a major change to the character of the neighborhood. There's a lot of implications for these 2 setbacks and driven by the occupancy load on this house, and it's going to have a negative effect on everyone on the street, plus the people that are living there. cramming 28 people into this small space is not a livable situation. So thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Can you just explain, just take us through where you got 28 as the occupancy for this?
Well, you can get 6 per floor in a 3-bedroom, right? So you got 4 3-bedrooms in the main floor, or in the main building. So that's 24 there.
You're assuming 2 people per bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Well, that's what the occupancy load is permitted, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, our next speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can have the occupant of 129 Brookside Avenue come to speak at the podium, please.
Good morning. My name's Sarah McCowan, and I'm at 129 Brookside Avenue. Good morning, members of the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sarah, and my family and I moved to Brookside only a few months ago. I already feel deeply connected to this community. I have 2 young children, a 2-year-old son who goes to the daycare down the street, and a 3-year-old daughter who goes to the public school on the other side of the street. In this short period of time, we've experienced Brookside as much more than a street. It's a close-knit neighborhood that has welcomed us warmly, with residents who have lived here for decades. Before I address my concerns, I want to make it clear that the residents of Brookside are not opposed to development or new neighbors. We understand the need for growth and additional housing, but we believe this growth should be managed responsibly, preserving the character and safety of our neighborhood. My biggest concern is the precedent that this will set. Despite the applicant's claims, Brookside is not a street of multiplexes. There are only a few here, and none of them include a quadplex with a garden suite, and all of them have parking. Now we're looking at a proposal for 4 units plus a garden suite on a very small lot. Squeezing as much building as possible into this space does not align with the neighborhood scale. It's an overbuild and is out of character. The requested variances are also far from minor. Reduced setbacks and minimal soft landscaping sharply deviate from the established neighborhood patterns. While these variances may feel minor to someone who doesn't live here or who doesn't plan to live in this community, they will have a lasting impact for those of us who do. The builder's website even references that a quadplex would be a great way to generate some additional cash flow for your property, which underscores that this project is primarily a business venture. The city's bylaws are here to ensure that developments respect the character and flow of the area, and this proposal does not meet that standard. Additionally, as this is a new build, there is no reason why it should not adhere to all of the laws put in place for development. EON is a relatively new city initiative meant to guide responsible, community-minded growth, and we respectfully ask the committee to ensure that this build meets all of those requirements. Again, we understand the need for additional housing, but let's not push the envelope. Just because 5 units could technically fit into this lot does not mean that we should, especially without parking provisions, which we do recognize is not a variant, but I think it does need to be called out. Beyond this issue of not even having parking, there is an issue about waste management, which I'm deeply concerned about how it would be managed on a lot this small. Neither the lot nor the street has room to accommodate that number of bins required on recycling and garbage days, and this raises sanitation and logistical challenges. It is also disappointing that the developer attempted to meet with residents only a few days ago as an attempt or an effort that feels like a last-minute check-the-box exercise in a genuine community engagement. The fact that there are so many of us here in person and on the phone should not be overlooked. As a mother of 2 young children who walk along Brookside to daycare and school every day, I'm genuinely worried about the increase in traffic and the congestion that this could bring. Approving this project will set a precedent for similar overbuilds, risking the safety of our street and changing the neighborhood's character in ways we did not ask for. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the committee to reject these variances. Thank you for listening and for considering how this decision will impact our community.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Panel, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Through the chair, we can move to our next registered speaker here in person at 171 Brookside Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Elisa Kerr, and I live at 171 Brookside Avenue. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I've lived on the street for over 12 years. My son also grew up on the street, and Brookside Avenue it's not just a neighborhood, it's a family, as you can see it. The applicants are relying on the EHON initiative, which supports increased density in neighborhoods. However, a blanket approach of EHON to all neighborhoods fails to consider the unique characteristics and infrastructure limitations of each area. While this amendment encourages modest intensification to house more people, this development is far from modest. This proposal will house potentially 5 people, or as we heard 28 potential occupants. It really raises significant concerns among our community. This overbuild is not a quadplex. It's reminiscent of a small residential complex. Plan Amendment 649 emphasizes compatibility with the prevailing character. In fact, it actually uses this word prevailing twice, and it also was interpreted in the TLAB decisions, the meaning of this word. The prevailing character of neighborhoods of our Brookside Avenue is lined with single-family homes, and this development unlike anything else on our street. Therefore, the general intent and purpose of the city's official plan is not maintained. The general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw is also not maintained. In my opinion, the application's deviations from zoning standards, such as reduced setbacks and minimal soft landscaping, also stand against the intent of Plan Amendment 649, which seeks to preserve neighborhood patterns and green spaces. This proposal includes no measures to preserve trees or incorporate eco-friendly building practices. As a new high-density building, this development must adhere strictly to zoning bylaws to avoid disrupting neighbors' privacy and our daily life. Is the proposal appropriate for the development of this land and building? And is this variance truly minor? This proposal has the potential to accommodate 5 families, and families rely on cars. And this proposed building will be built on 25 by 117 lot with no access to laneway, driveway, or parking pad. And parking is already a challenge in our street due to a newly built Summerhill Market, which is, generates lots of traffic. We have a private daycare, and I'm actually one of the examples. My house is a white home with a black window. It was brought as an example, and on a daily basis, I have people blocking my driveway, people parking on my driveway to eat a sandwich. That's this is how it affects me personally. Moreover, applicant is silent with respect to waste management, as it was mentioned before, and you can only imagine how much garbage will 28 occupants could potentially generate. The next important point I would like to bring, it's really important. The applicant's highlight of Jane Street convenience, Jane Streets as a convenience to the property. The transit score of 68 cited by the applicant does not represent strong transit score. It rather reflects of limited and often inadequate public transportation option in our area. Jane Street is a subject to Rapid CO initiative, which was triggered by very poor transit access. It is a major artery that cuts through a densely populated area with mostly low-income households, resulting in 40% of the local population along Jane Street relying on public transit. Jane Street ranks among the most congested roads in the GTA, with its bus routes being most overburdened, accommodating over 40,000 riders on a weekday. These numbers you can see from my written submissions. There's an official report attached to it. Overcrowding and delays are frequent issues, with buses often having to bypass stops south of Dundas. Me, myself, and other residents of surrounding streets, we walk to Jane Station. And it doesn't matter what weather it is. It could be a rain, it could be a snowstorm, but we do not get to ride those buses. The median price for 3-bedroom apartment in our neighborhood goes for $4,000. And this development is not about solving housing crisis. The applicants mentioned that they left their corporate job to pursue this development, but it raises concerns why the business interest of 3 individuals has to negatively impact the lives of over 170 residents of Brookside Avenue. In short, I think the variance, if you take in consideration of everything I mentioned, the variances are not minor in this particular application. And the development at 119 Brookside Avenue is not in line with the official plan's vision for balanced growth. It doesn't blend with the surrounding homes, doesn't respect preventing lawn configuration, and I respectfully ask you to kindly deny this application.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Do you have any questions?
Do we have any questions of the speaker? No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, we can move to the next speaker at 120 Brookside Avenue.
Good morning, I'm Lori Robertson of 120 Brookside Avenue. Good morning, members of the Committee of Adjustment. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today about the importance of staying committed to city bylaws that are designed to protect residents and create more housing in Toronto through the thoughtful, community-focused approach outlined in OPA 649. I'm sorry to be emotional, but
And do you want to take a moment?
this matters. That's why I'm emotional. It matters. My name is Lori Robertson, and we've lived on Brookside Avenue for 17 years. My family and I love this community. We've raised our daughters on this street. They're here with me today, and often our family jokes about how we live in a small town, not a big city. Neighbors and neighborhoods matter. We live in a deeply connected community that cares for one another, and we stand together against developers who claim to care about thoughtful growth, but who have no consideration for the existing community and take no responsibility for the impact of the multiplexes they propose that are, in reality, superplexes that threaten the very fabric of the community that they infiltrate. We, along with our neighbors, urge the Committee of Adjustment to uphold city bylaws that protect our city against absurd levels of densification. While the variances requested by this developer are considered minor, they are not minor. The impact of them is major and precedent-setting, not just for Brookside, but for any and every street in our city. Bylaws must be respected to protect Toronto communities against overdevelopment and extreme densification. This developer has proposed reduced setbacks and minimal soft landscaping impacts. But what really has been proposed is levels of densification that cannot be supported by the space. There's insufficient softscaping, neighborhood infrastructure, and poses harm to surrounding homes. This developer is proposing going from a single-family dwelling to a superplex that houses up to 28 people. This is not balanced growth, and this level of sudden and extreme densification cannot be supported. No fourplexes with garden suites exist on our street. Existing triplexes on our street have setbacks consistent with the street. Softscape is maximized and parking is included. While there is a need to expand housing in our city, the Committee of Adjustment needs to protect Toronto and Torontonians from developers who propose overdevelopment and the astronomical impacts of this threat. This developer has not taken a community-focused approach as outlined in OPA 649. This developer's actions have been disrespectful, dismissive, and they have completely disregarded the residents of Brookside. Allowing developers of this type of character who have complete disregard for the communities that they infiltrate is a threat to every community in Toronto. We urge the Committee of Adjustment to uphold city bylaws and protect residents and communities by not allowing this precedent to occur. The impact of allowing this minor variance has major impacts on parking, waste, and safety concerns with increased traffic and sets a precedent for other developers to take advantage and destroy neighborhoods. Transit on Jane is unreliable and disruptive, and with the potential of accommodating 5 families in this superplex, it is likely that many potential residents will be dependent on cars. This property has no laneway, driveway, or parking pad. This developer is depending on street parking that is already being stretched beyond its limit with Summerhill Market and Green Apple Daycare at the north end of Brookside and Humbercrest Public School at the south end. There is not additional parking on our street to absorb this densification. There are significant concerns about waste management with the increased number of residents potentially living in this superplex. The developer has not accounted for the designated areas for waste management. There is concern that waste will accumulate in inappropriate spaces, leading to highly concerning sanitation issues by attracting more rodents and vermin. Allowing these minor variances have a major impact on community safety with increased car traffic, waste management concerns, and allowing a garden suite produces deep safety issues for how EMS will be able to access this property. We are not against development to create more housing. We are against developers thoughtlessly creating superplexes that destroy communities and neighborhood services. We urge the Committee of Adjustment to uphold city bylaws to ensure our cities and neighborhoods are protected and that our city continues to thoughtfully grow and thrive. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Panel, any questions? We have no questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, we can call up the next speaker on the list, 116 Brookside Avenue.
Good morning, sir.
This one?
Yep.
Morning.
That's it. Your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Robert Rossett. I own the property at 116 Brookside Avenue, and I've resided there with my wife and family for the past 23 years. This is across the street from the proposed development of 119 Brookside. Thank you to the members of the committee for hearing my objections and concerns regarding the proposed development and the variances being requested by the application. I'll begin by stating that we fully agree with and support the objections and concerns that all the other homeowners and residents of this community have already expressed, both in their submission, written objections, and their in-person presentations here today. In my opinion, the two remaining variances being requested neither should be considered minor. These are major city bylaw variances that would provide for an excessive overdensity of the property at 119 Brookside. This neither reflects the character of the existing neighborhood as required, nor does the application as required show the proposal is at all desirable for the appropriate use of a lot that's only 25 feet wide and 117 feet in length. The city's own published public policy defines the general intent of the city zoning bylaw as to ensure that any given development does not substantially increase the usability of a property or adversely affect the surrounding properties or the neighborhood in general. Both of these variances would provide for the property at 119 Brookside to increase from a 2 to 4 person single dwelling to a 28 person or more multi-dwelling overnight. This represents an increase of 1,330% occupancy from its previous use. The application refers to this as a gentle density in the proposal. It is impossible to argue that this kind of density increase is not a substantial increase in the usability of a property or that it is not excessive density for an existing property. The city bylaw and the EHON requires a moderate and gradual increase in a property's and a neighborhood's density development and size from its previous use. This makes both variances major in definition, not minor, and should be rejected. The request for variance to reduce the softscape by over 11 square meters in the rear of the property alone is also significant, not minor. The negative impact on safe water runoff, flood protection, available green space, maintaining or growing the tree canopy, and livability of the property, all requirements for variance approval, cannot be overlooked. This in no way maintains the general intent of the city zoning bylaw or the general intent of the city's official plan or the EHON requirements. The side yard setback variances being requested in this application to the north and south side setbacks of the property would require a combined reduction of 53% of current city bylaw requirements. This can only be seen as a major variance request, not a minor request, and should be rejected. The precedent that this would set on the street and in the neighborhood would be damaging and irreversible for years to come. The application and recent revisions attempts to establish to committee that there is somehow numerous previous developments on Brookside Avenue that are the same or similar to the application proposed. All but 3 of the 11 photos of homes on Brookside Avenue submitted in the application for variance are in fact single dwelling homes. not multi-dwelling properties of 28 persons or more, as the application proposes. None of the three remaining properties used in an attempt to establish precedents provides for anywhere near as many dwellings or number of people residing in a single property. Two of the three properties are low-rise legacy apartments with 6 people or less residing at each property. This application, the design, and its dependency on multiple variance approvals to proceed for multiple property developments throughout the city appears to be the result of a one-size-fits-all approach to property development. It is unreasonable to propose that the same 5-dwelling multiplex and garden suite design that is appropriate for a larger, wider, deeper lot is somehow appropriate for a much smaller lot and doesn't require any significant changes to the design in order to address overdensity or city bylaw and EHON requirements. Recent City of Adjustment committees have found that this very same design proposal on similar sized lots to be an excessive build and not in keeping with the character of certain mostly single-dwelling neighborhoods. The committees have also determined that the variances required to significantly reduce the minimum soft space and setback requirements were not minor, but were significant or major based on the impact the development would have on neighborhoods and residents in the area. Before concluding, I'd like to add that the application continuously submits that there has been engagement with the community and residents of Brookside Avenue in order to understand and address the concerns of the community. For the record, there has been no evidence that the applicant has made any attempt to engage with or initiate any dialogue or discussion regarding the concerns of the community. In conclusion, I'd like to add that I support new development and redevelopment of properties in this neighborhood and throughout Toronto. We are not opposed to a new family dwelling on Brookside Avenue, or even on this property for that matter. But what we are opposed to is an application and design that disregards city bylaws and the intent of such bylaws and the city plan in order to overdevelop a small property with an excessive build.
Sir, I'm just going to cut you off there. Thank you very much. I think we've got the gist.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Any questions of the speaker? No? Thank you very much, sir.
Through the chair, we can move to the next registered speaker at 121 Brookside Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Hi. My name is Lori Bremner, and I'm the owner of 121 Brookside Avenue, which is a small, single-story house located directly north of the proposed development. Everyone's talked already about the increased density. I worry this will affect wastewater production, and combined with more surface runoff could affect neighboring properties. City intensification, as recommended, state that shadow impact should be considered in this case. The proposed fourplex building will have a major shadowing effect due to height, front and rear wall extensions, and the presence, especially in the back, of balconies and staircases. Despite the statement that front and rear terraces are located 1.2 meters from the north and south side lots, the third floor rear terrace area remains at 8.68 square meters, and only the presence of added privacy screens create the illusion of a 1.2 meter distance. A rear external staircase is merely 0.94 meters from the north property line. The north wall of 119 appears to have variable variances. I measured the front indented wall portion, which I measured a setback of 0.44 meters. Regardless, any narrowing of the distance between our two walls or any protrusions will make my driveway unusable to reach the garage in the back. The presence of windows on the fourplex north building side remain a privacy concern, even if they aren't aligned with my existing doors and windows. I have further privacy and noise, as well as safety concerns regarding the proposed garden suite. City intensification recommendations state that trees are important for beautification and mitigating climate change, and that preservation is paramount. As per the arborist report in this case, 3 mature trees are to be cut down, and due to space limitations, can be replaced by 1 tree only. which is a direct violation of the city's goal of increasing tree canopy. Parking has been mentioned as being a concern, and despite the high walkability score reported for this street, in reality, the main proportion of residents have one, and in many cases, 2 vehicles per household. I also want to point out that there are currently 1, 2, and 3 bedroom rental apartments to be found at nearby 3385 Dundas Street West. Further east on Dundas, 7 single-family homes are to be demolished and replaced by an 8-story building containing 88 dwelling units. Within the expanding housing option plan, it's important that single-family homes should also remain an option now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Panel, any questions? Thank you very much.
Through the chair, we can move to the online speaker registered as the occupant of 65 Brookside Avenue.
Thanks very much. I'm just going to say to the remaining speakers, if we've heard an awful lot of concerns, if you can, keep your remarks to things that we haven't already heard, that would be very much appreciated. Okay.
Hello, Helen Hickens. You have been unmuted.
Good afternoon. Helen? Did we lose Helen?
Helen, you're showing online on the system. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, Helen. I guess I'll try another phone call to try to reach you one last time. Okay. Please be on standby. Thank you.
How many speakers do we have online? Just this one?
Through the chair, unfortunately, we've tried and had multiple attempts by email and phone call to reach Helen, but could not connect.
Okay. Thank you very much. If we could then have the agent back, please. Okay, sir. Welcome back. You've heard quite a bit of concern from the surrounding area. I wonder if you could address what you can.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, my client's here, and we deeply respect the residents' passion for their neighbourhood. Change can obviously invoke strong emotions, and we've made concerted efforts to address specific conditions as much as we can through engagement and revisions of our proposal. Before I proceed, I want to inform the committee that I'll be quoting remarks directly from the opposition letters we received. This is to provide some context to some of those concerns that were raised. There were a lot raised just now, so it was easier to prepare some of these in advance. So some residents have expressed a desire to maintain the neighbourhood exclusively as single-family homes. And the quote is, "This street has always been single-family homes, and we intend to keep it that way." So our response is, Brookside Avenue is characterized by a mix of housing, including the 17% of multiplexes, and our proposal again aligns with the city policies, promoting gentle density to address housing needs. Another quote, "Adding rental units will attract the transient people who don't value our neighborhood. This is a misconception. Purpose-built rental housing provides quality homes for individuals and families who contribute positively to the community. Renters are integral members of our society, teachers, healthcare workers, and young professionals who enhance the vibrancy and economy of the neighborhood." Some opposition, so there was another quote we got saying, "We have already defeated developments before and will continue unwanted projects out. And I mean, it's very impressive the number of opposition letters. I understand there is a WhatsApp group where they were able to sort of communicate and put together a combined response to our proposal. And I think it is important. This is a letter in writing that was given to Laurie, the neighbour, just north of the property. It seemed to be a good conversation at the time, and was amenable to the changes that we proposed for her property. There's been some comments about 28 tenants living here. I mean, that's just a number that's sort of an absolute potential maximum, but that could be in any house. Could fill a tremendous amount of people. There was a comment that was said about the website's developer talking about profit. The developer's website talking about profit. Our developer, the owners don't have a website. They're independent guys who are literally starting out. That's why maybe in hindsight they could have engaged the community better. I mean, we wouldn't have engaged 38 people or whatever it was. I don't think that's reasonable. But they did engage the two neighbouring properties. And they're not a big, scary developer. They're really trying to build purpose rental housing on these sites, really in line with EHON. There's 5 units, 4 family. This is not a superplex. This is really in line with the exact guidelines we are given from EHON. There was a mention about the walkability not being great. We just did a quick check. It says excellent walkability at 83 for that location. There's a lot of kind of comments that were said that are not really accurate. And obviously there's concerns that there's no garden suites and multiplexes in this neighborhood. And obviously, as you all know, this is all a new policy, and we are starting to see a lot more of these sprout up around the city. And it's new, and therefore we don't see that many. So I think we respectively emphasize the making a decision based on factors outside the planning standards, and the 4 tests for minor variance could set. We respectfully emphasize that making a decision based on factors outside of planning standards and the 4 tests for minor variance could set a concerning precedent. Denying a project with only 2 minor variances, which have ample precedences on the same street, based on a generalized opposition, would be quite worrisome. I would also say that if this was a single family home with the same variances, I assume we wouldn't get as many people of opposition. I just want to reinforce that these minor variances are minor in nature. The variances are modest adjustments consistent with existing neighborhood patterns and will have minimal impact. Desirable for appropriate development. Development supports city initiatives for housing diversity, affordable housing, and demographic need. Our proposal ensures compatibility through thoughtful design, respecting the scale and character of the neighborhood. And the project aligns with objectives for sustainable growth, inclusivity, and enhanced community vision. We firmly believe that our development will be a valuable addition to Brookside Avenue, supporting both current and future residents by addressing Laurie's concerns in writing and making effort to engage with the neighbour at 117, I think was here as well. We demonstrate our commitment to the community and adherence to planning principles. We appreciate the community's role in assessing applications based on planning merits and the 4 tests for minor variances as outlined in the Planning Act. It's crucial for the integrity of the planning process that decisions are grounded in these objective criteria. Denying a project with only 2 minor variances which have ample precedence on the same street could set a concerning precedent, and it may discourage responsible developments.
Sir, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up if you could.
Sure. Yeah, we respectfully request the committee's approval of our application based on its planning merits. Approving this proposal reinforces the city's commitment to responsible development and sets a positive precedent for future projects that aim to meet Toronto's housing needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel, questions? Dylan?
Yeah, a couple. So one of the objections that people raise that's perhaps more specific is waste management. I was wondering what your plans are for managing the many bins that will be needed for this.
Yeah, so if that, can we zoom in on the site plan close to the front yard? That's okay. So on the front yard, it's hard to see again from here. There will be, we have room within the bylaw to extend some, I guess, permeable pavers up to that 75% if we need to. The intention was to put a sort of enclosed garbage area, and there is also room at the back for the garden suite to have their own garbage bin. The other option is on the side of the property, which is probably preferable. But there could be, there is a meter there, so it might be preferable to have in the front in a sort of screened off area.
You're aware that the meter on the side is required for emergency service?
Yeah, exactly. So it does need to remain clear. So yeah, there would be an area on the top north part of the property that we would screen off.
So like on the front?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many bins are you expecting to need? Do you need one per unit, like 3 per unit, or can they share? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't determined the number. There would be shared units, shared bins.
Okay.
We haven't considered what that number would be. We have similar property where we've put 5 bins. So it would be somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Presumably 3 or 4 in the front and 2 in the back.
Okay, thank you. You said, I was wondering if you could specify how you had addressed the front yard landscaping thing. You said 116%, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I was just wondering if you could just take us through what changes you made in order to eliminate that variance.
So we increased the front yard landscaping from what there was a variance there prior. We increased it to the maximum. Like we basically eliminated all the walkways and had as minimal amount of walkways required to get onto the property, and the remainder is offscape, basically.
Right, and is it because also you shrank the sort of French steps and porch?
Sorry, say that again?
Is it because also you shrank the porch a little?
Correct. Yeah. So exactly. So that portion actually added back to the calculation of the front yard.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah.
So what percentage is it now?
I mean, it's meeting the minimum requirement. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
Okay.
It's at least 75%. I think, based on the on what I said, I think is 116. But we're meeting that requirement, and we've eliminated the variance.
Okay, thank you. There was some concern about the trees, which I think you'll have to take some down. Where are you planning to replace trees?
So our client is amenable to add a tree, and we can add one in the front of the property on the north side.
Okay.
There is a tree already on the property as well on the front, so we would add another.
And is there space at the back for a tree?
I don't think so. We can look at it, and if there is, we'd be happy to add one. I think it might be a bit too close to the structure.
Right, okay. And just to work through, there's a lot of concern about the side yard setback, so just to work through those. The current side yard setback, you said that you're actually improving it slightly on the north side, right?
Correct.
So what's the current one?
The current one is 0.32 meters, and we're doing it 0.35 meters.
Right. And on the south side, you're taking up just 0.2.
Just 0.2, and we've kept it in line with the minimum requirement to get to a garden suite, which is the meter.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well.
Thank you. Phil?
Could we pull up the arborist report and the site plan that's contained within it? Yeah, great. And then focus on the backyard where there's the handwriting about a Kentucky coffee tree, minimum 60 millimeter caliper. So my assumption, since this was your arborist report, was that this tree would be planted in the backyard. Is that something?
Right. Yeah. I suppose. Yeah. I missed that, but yes, if that's what the arborist is recommending, then we will add that as well.
Okay, and would that be acceptable to be included as a condition so that there's some sort of green canopy to be grown there?
Certainly, yeah, we'd be happy to add that.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much, sir. We'll take this into committee.
Thank you.
Who wants to start us off? Phil?
It's always nice to see a neighborhood come together and come out, and it's nice to see people come out in person. You get a much better sense of how people feel and what the real concerns are. I think it is clear to me, though, from the presentations that the real concerns have to do with it being a multiplex in this location with a garden suite in this location, neither of which conditions are actually requiring a variance from us. The conditions requiring a variance are quite minor. I think there's also a disagreement about the level of engagement from the developer with the community, and change is difficult, and at a certain point, maybe no level of engagement would be enough, but on the other hand, maybe there wasn't that much engagement. It's hard for us to know with in hindsight, but what we do know in hindsight is that they have taken a lot of concerns into consideration, because these variances have reduced from 13 to 5 to 2. And so I do, without reconstructing what happened in each individual relationship, I do see a developer that has tried to take into account how these variances are going to affect the surroundings. And so for those reasons, given that we only have the 2 variances and that EHON policies are a real thing, that multiplexes are allowed on this site, I think it's a supportable application.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm impressed that the garden suite is being introduced with no variances at all. So I think that it's important to emphasize to the community that the garden suite, anyone could build that garden suite there. That is something the city has specifically arranged, and to actually get that garden suite into the site with no variances is actually quite impressive. So I think that's great. To echo my colleague, I think it's really disappointing that they did not consult with the community on this clearly until the last minute. It is really something that's important to do, but I also take the point that I don't think the community would ever really be happy with this, and I can understand it's a significant change. On the other hand, this is the kind of change that the city is specifically aiming for with its EHON policy and with its multiplex policy. This is exactly what they're looking for. And so, one of our requirements is to conform with city policy, zoning, and official plan, and this very much fits with that. I feel like there could have been a bit of a better preparation in terms of the presentation. The waste bin issue is an important one. They can't be stored on the side because that's the access to the garden suite. It would have been great to see some kind of presentation of exactly how they're going to be managed. On the other hand, I don't think that's significant enough, and it's not really part of our part of the variances that we're discussing. So I totally understand that this is a bit of a considerable change for the thing, and I think it will create, I can imagine it could create some issues in terms of parking and such. But the fact is that this is what the city has been looking for. The 2 variances are very minor. The rear landscaping is better than a lot of the proposals that we approve regularly. The side yard setback similarly. It's slightly improved in the north side. The south side is still matching the requirements for emergency access to the garden suite. And I take the point that there's other setbacks that are similar in the neighborhood. So I think that we have to approve these. It really fits with all the requirements that we have. They're minor. They fit with city policy. And I think they are, in fact, according to what the city's goals are, the appropriate development of neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. I'll just sum up by, first of all, thanking everyone for coming down today and sharing with the panel your thoughts and comments and your concerns. The number and volume of opposition letters and the number and volume of speakers we've had today is not that common, and so it gets our attention. We've read every piece of correspondence that you submitted. We listened very carefully to what you said today, and I think that's important. What I would say to those who have come, this is an application that started out with 13 variances and went down to 5 and is now down to 2. That is a direct result of your participation in this process. The fact that you have raised these concerns in the past, I think have resulted in the owner making the changes, many of them which you have asked for or raised concerns about today. So we are down to, as my colleague said, down to two, frankly, really very minor variances. In this committee, that's what we have to take into consideration. The development before us is pretty darn close to as of right. The two variances before us are really quite minor. So this development can and would go ahead regardless. So the variances that the panel has to weigh and consider before us relative to what we started out with and relative to how large they are and how much they depart from the bylaw are really quite minor. So what you've heard from us and my colleagues is that while we heard your concerns, this is a development that is consistent with what City Council is trying to achieve in existing established neighborhoods. So with that, I'll look to someone for a motion. Phil?
So I'll move to approve this, but I would like to add a condition that a Kentucky coffee tree minimum 60 millimeter caliper be planted as indicated on the site plan that is included in the applicant's arborist report to the satisfaction of urban forestry.
Okay, so it's an amended application.
Okay, yes, and to approve the application as amended.
And forestry 2 and 3.
That as well.
And the Metrolinx warning clause.
I'm not of a mind to include that. They don't come out here to ask for it, and I don't think it's that helpful.
Okay.
Could I also suggest, the applicant was open to having permeable pavers in the rear yard. If we want to add that as a condition.
Sure, yes, let's add that as a condition as well, that the paved area in the rear yard be constructed with permeable pavers.
Motion by Mr. Ghosh to approve this application subject to conditions forestry 2 and 3, the planting of a tree in the rear yard, permeable pavers in the rear yard, and that's it, I think. Okay, motion by Mr. Ghosh. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? You're approved with those conditions. Thank you. Thank you all for coming down. We move on to item number 16, 20 Aberdeen Road. This is an application to construct a new 2.5-story fourplex with a front covered porch, front and rear basement walkouts, front and rear second-story balconies, front and rear third-story terraces, a rear ground floor deck, and rear exterior stairs on all stories. Also to construct a new 2-story ancillary building, a garden suite. Am I reading the wrong one here?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I've got the old version. What should I be reading?
Through the chair, the correct version should be in your agenda package because it was replaced.
Right.
And it's also on the screen. So it starts with to alter the existing 3-story townhouse dwelling.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, when I downloaded, I don't know if I downloaded the updated version. So I will just read that out. To alter the existing 3-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a new rear 1-story addition with basement below, a side basement walkout, and a rear 2nd-story rooftop deck above the new rear addition. The existing rear 1-story addition will be demolished. Okay. Committee has before it a copy of the plan and survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received October 28th, covering letter from the agent, email correspondence from the agent, and a tree inventory plan. We have correspondence and support from 18 Aberdeen Avenue. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, and we also have a person here in interest wishing to speak to the application.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Matt Winter, and I'm the owner's agent and architectural designer responsible for the application. My address is 88 Glen Davis Crescent.
Thank you. I think we'll need a short presentation, sir.
Yeah, no problem. If you can go to the, I believe it should be the superseded plans. We can flip through that together. No, sorry, maybe it's the revised plans. Yes, sorry. Yeah, that's it, revised plans. Okay, so we can just quickly flip through I'll guide it a bit. So there's site statistics, which is not shown. Okay, so onto these site plans. So this is a site plan showing the existing house with a proposed addition and proposed basement walkout stairs. So from our zoning application, there were two bylaw items that require minor variance with the Committee of Adjustment. The first involves an increase in the floor space index from the lawfully existing 1.31 to the proposed 1.33. And the second involves the basement walkout stairs proposed to be built within the side yard setback. Next slide. For the first bylaw item concerning the floor space index, the current lawfully existing floor space index is 1.31, and with our proposed addition, the new FSI will be 1.33, which is a proposed increase of 0.02 or 1.2 meters squared. This increase is a result of rebuilding the existing one-story structure at the back of the house, shown in blue, to be squared off, shown in red, and adding basement space while still maintaining the same building depth and length. So the red is the new additional 1.2 meter squared space, and as a note, the basement is not included in the FSI calculation. This floor area increase allows the growing needs of the couple to be accommodated by a new internal layout. Next slide. So yeah, the second bylaw item, sorry, previous slide. The second bylaw item we were seeking minor variance for concerns the basement walkout stairs that are proposed to be within the side yard setback requirements. By locating the basement walkout stairs shown in orange in the small underutilized side yard space, we're able to maintain the usability of the backyard area without compromising on the privacy of the neighbors. Basement walkout stairs are permitted to be 0.6 meters from the lot line, but considering the OBC minimum required stair width, we are proposing the stairs to be 0.2 meters from the lot line. Next slide. So this is just a simple 3D axonometric diagram looking at the back of the house, the existing conditions, and the next slide is the proposed conditions. Yeah, basement walkout stairs and widen addition space that we're seeking the minor variance for. Next slide. I'll just quickly run through the drawing set briefly, and we'll pause on the drawings that highlight the areas that are involved in the bylaw items we're seeking a minor variance for. So this is the existing basement floor plan. Next slide, that's correct, yeah. So the blue areas and portion we're proposing to demolish and rebuild with a basement space as well. Next slide. So this is the existing second floor plan. Yeah, next slide. Third floor plan. Next slide, roof plan. Next slide. So in pink and red, red and blue, so we can see the proposed basement plan with the overlaid blue and red colors indicating the area that was existing and now proposing to be rebuilt for the first floor and then the basement space. And the red showing the new proposed basement addition, first floor space plus basement space. Next slide. And now the proposed first floor showing the same. Next slide. And then the second floor plan, we can flip through these, third floor plan, roof plan. On the north elevation showing the same thing, the blue being the existing portion to be demolished and rebuilt, then the red showing the new area. South elevation unchanged. We flip to that. Next slide, east elevation, that blue portion. Again, next slide, west elevation, that new red portion. And then flip to the next slide. Yeah, so that's that long section cutting through the proposed basement walkout shown in orange looking west. And then along next slide, long section cutting through the rebuilt first floor plan and new basement space looking east. Cross section through the rebuilt and addition space looking south on the next slide. And then the next slide showing that basement walkout space. Perhaps we can conclude there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, panel? Okay, do we have a speaker on this item? Hi, good afternoon.
Hi. Seems quite trivial compared to the last one.
Not at all.
I'm Natasha Goodoff. I'm the owner at 22 Aberdeen, directly where the stairwell is. So I just want to simply state that I'm coming in as interest, not in disagreement or in agreement to it. But after recommendations with talking with Matt, the architect who's just on as the agent, to come and take a listen to what the committee has to say. We do have a good relationship with our neighbors, but we can actually see potentially a property line dispute in the future. So when this home was purchased by the current owners, they purchased it without a survey, and our backyard was already constructed previous to that, with agreements with the previous owner of where that line of our fence was. There was a very, very large ash tree that was removed with permits with the city, and that cut kind of that line. So the fence line is currently straight, but as you can see through the survey, there's some stuff there. So we just wanted to kind of like talk about or where that comes into play for future, and if we do a resale, like where those lines are, and if we have kind of spoken with council about it as well, but that's probably not this issue here. So kind of the question that we just had was about what levers do they have if this gets approved, the encroachment on our property line. So my understanding from speaking with Matt Winter is that it's going to be a concrete retaining wall, that the portion of our fence would end up being removed between our two houses, which is a very, very narrow space. And what that might mean, we haven't seen any like engineering kind of drawings, what that means, like whether that concrete retaining wall will be on our property or not, are we sharing it, how does that fit there? We're not in disagreement with this at all. We think that extending that space for the first variance would be great for us too. We eventually want to build, and we'll come back to this meeting at some point. So we're not in disagreement there. Just that kind of question of like what happens when that fence gets removed. So we have in those images that Matt sent too, you can see an extensive renovation to our backyard. You can see that through like where the tree pictures are. This was done over 5 years ago. Other than construction for like a few months, just what that's kind of going to look like. And then does the basement dig out, does that also then approve for a full underpinning, because they do want to go and dig out to the rest of the portion of the basement? So does this mean that we've approved or agreed to that? If they're going to dig the bottom, the back where their kitchen is, does that mean that they have approval that we've fully agreed to the full underpinning or the full benching?
Thank you. You've asked a lot of questions.
Sure, sorry.
And we'll ask the agent to address them, but they're kind of beyond the scope of this committee.
Fair enough.
The survey issue is, frankly, as you pointed out, is largely going to be a legal issue. It's something that you're going to have to pursue. If you've got a survey, they've got a survey, and if they don't line up, then there's a process for trying to resolve those issues.
Great.
But before us, what we have is just the variances, but we can certainly ask Mr. Winter to try and address some of the issues you've raised.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, I think we go back to the agent?
Yeah. Okay, so thanks, Natasha. So we did speak briefly about this, I think a few weeks ago now, maybe a month ago. So for the retaining wall for the basement stairs, the east side of the retaining wall will be on the property line, but there'll be nothing that's going to be constructed on your property. There may need to be some shoring and excavation that would end up being on your property line on your property, just to be able to construct this retaining wall. But if there's anything that's going to be, damaged or need repaired concerning the deck on your side of property, I'm sure the owner and my client will be happy to cover any costs of anything that needs to be replaced. So no, there won't be anything that's built in the end on your property. It'll be on the property line. And again, that's that east face of the retaining wall. And then there'll be a portion of the fence which will be demolished and shifted over slightly to be rebuilt on top of the retaining wall. So the center line of the fence will be aligned with the center line of the retaining wall. So that too will not be on your property line. And then, as Mr. Chair pointed out, the underpinning is outside of the scope of this committee meeting, but I can just say that permits that we'll be going ahead with and the engineering drawings that will be done, we'll of course make sure to consider obviously the structural integrity of these shared walls. But yeah, that will all be done properly and according to the proper codes and city guidelines.
Okay, thanks very much. So just stay in touch with these guys, and I'm sure that you can work something out.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the agent? Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Welcome, thank you.
Let's take this into committee. Peter?
Or if you.
Oh, sorry, I saw Peter's hand first.
Yeah, no,
ahead. I was
if
just gonna
you, if
move
you were,
it.
I thought you were going to move it, and I just have a comment.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's, I just, to your concerns, the concerns of the individual that came here, I just want to sort of just go another level further and just say, whatever we decide here, it won't be seen as, just because you didn't oppose it, as you agreeing to anything and therefore not being able to have discussions about any of these matters that you've raised in the future. Our decision will be looked at as just a decision about these variances, which as you yourself stated, are not actually an issue for you. So I just wanted to give that assurance that anybody that's looking at this is going to understand the context.
Dylan?
Just to add to that, in fact, we're only approving a variance that will be 0.2 meters from the side east lot line. So actually within the variance, there is a guarantee that it will not be right on your lot line. They'll be 20 centimeters off.
Okay, Peter, do you want to take this one now?
Those are good points, and thanks for jumping in. This is a very basic application, I think, that is, the variances are small and the impacts of them are very minor. So I can see no negative side to approving them, so I move approval subject to urban forestry, no urban forestry, no condition.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your, have your approval, sir. Thank you. Item number 17, 174 Pape Avenue. This is an application to construct I got this one right, this one that was transposed, or I'm good? To construct a new 2-story ancillary building? Okay, thank you. A detached garage with 2 parking spaces on the ground floor and laneway suite above. In the rear yard abutting the laneway, the existing 1-story ancillary building will be demolished. The existing 2.5-story detached dwelling on the lot will be maintained and unaltered. There will be a total of 2 residential dwellings on the lot, one within the main building and one within the ancillary building laneway suite. Committee has before a copy plan, a survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property. We have a report from Urban Forestry and correspondence and concern from 176 Pape Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, and we have 3 registered speakers in interest to this item, one of which is in person.
Great. All right. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, this is Nicholas Anchero of 507 King Street East.
Great, sir. We have some people who want to speak to this item, so if you could give us a short presentation, please.
Very good. We've currently started, it's nearing completion, the renovation of a Victorian frontage home at this address. This is a very unusual lot for the neighborhood in the sense that it's a double lot. We rather than we made the renovation for the we had the renovation for the existing home within all bylaws. We did not come to committee of adjustment for it. We only had a small addition on the 3rd floor, and although there's a full side yard, we decided not to come off to the side yard whatsoever. We've renovated the home there with the consideration that we would now, in the other case, do a renovation, not a renovation, but do a coach house, which is by right to do these laneway houses now in the city, as you know. The only variance that we've come upon here is that we want to make the length of the coach house the full length of the back. We have a small presentation, just a couple of pages, if that can be pulled up, and it just shows a diagram of the existing garage and the layover of the existing or the proposed garage with coach house. And we've basically, that's the existing that's there. Yes, that is the existing that's there. You can see it's rather dilapidated. It reaches from building to building on the sides. What we're proposing overlays it, just set back slightly as per the rules of the city, to give up, to convey a certain amount of footage in the laneway. So we've pulled it forward a couple of feet, and we've also have the existing laneway or the existing garage currently impedes on both lot lines, like it impedes onto the neighbor's lot, where we would now be taking that away. I don't feel that we're overdeveloping this land either. What I'd like to just mention is that, again, it's within basically the same footprint, and the house, you can see here how the whole current, the driveway, they've been using the house before our clients bought it. They used the house that the people would drive in off of Pape and drive into the garage from the back. What we've now proposed is the garage will be full access from the other side, and it will be completely, it will be closed off, and this side yard and the back area that you see now as complete concrete will become mainly green area, and it becomes a large garden for them, so to say. The reason we're not we're asking for the variance for the extra 8 feet is, and we went back and forth on this for a while, but the reason is mainly for security purposes. We don't think that there's any reason why this, just like the existing garage reaches side to side on the lot, we don't think that there's any reason why it shouldn't be able to at this point either. And it also, from a laneway perspectives, gives them a little bit more security that nobody can access their yard from the back at that point. The depth is just over 20 feet. And, as you can see on the site survey, on the survey there, and it's basically to fit the cars. We're not going, we can go by right, we can go over 30 feet in depth. We're not asking for any of that. We're not looking to overpopulate this land. We're really just looking to reach it from side to side.
Okay, thank you, sir. So you're resolving an issue where your property is your building is encroaching on your neighbor's property?
Yeah, according to the survey, currently now the existing garage, they're all attached, and it slightly encroaches, yes.
Okay.
And but the new building, of course, will not.
Yes, so you're fixing that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions, panel? Okay, we have ma'am, did you want to come up?
So I want to thank...
Is your red light on there?
Yes?
Okay, good.
Maybe I need to do this?
Yes, that's better, thank you.
I'm small. Okay. I just wanted to thank...
Sorry, your name and address, please.
I just want to thank the Committee of Adjustment first for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
My name is Rebecca Rennick. I live at and own 176 Pape Avenue. I'm next door, and on the north side of 174, I have lived in my home for 24 years. I'm coming here to express interest, and I think you'll see from my comments why I'm expressing interest. And so I feel like I can't make up my mind unless I kind of have these concerns addressed, like as to whether I would say yes or no. And I have not been contacted by the agent at all, so we haven't had any dialogue about this. From the materials I received and from reviewing online what I could see, it wasn't clear to me what the actual measurements of the overhang into the laneway were and what part of the proposed structure is actually overhanging. So I understand there's an overhang. Is it the whole second floor overhanging? Is it the balcony? And I just wanted to get clarification on that point. And why I want clarification on that point is that I'm concerned about the possible impact of the overhang on the visibility into the laneway of neighbors as they exit from their garage into the laneway, especially neighbors on the same side of the proposed structure. And second, I wanted to make sure that there's no obstruction to the passage of very large vehicles that provide service through the laneway, for example, for tree services, for pothole repair, lane resurfacing, and moving vans, all of which do use that laneway for those purposes. So I just like some clarification around that. Maybe at the end I could get some. Should I go on with concern, my second one?
Yes, please go ahead.
So the second concern that I have is that the proposed building would be constructed very close to the garage and the wood fence, which is on my property. And my fence and garage at 176 sit on noticeably higher ground than the site of the proposed construction at 174. So it's estimated that at grade 176 is between 1.5 feet and 2 feet higher than the property at 174. I think I've converted this to meters correctly, so 0.46 meters to 0.61 meters is the difference. So I'm sitting higher, or my property is sitting higher than 174. And I could not access the property at 174 in time to take specific measurements of this distance. So this is purely a visual estimate by me and someone else who recently worked on my fence. My concern is about the possible impact of construction of the proposed building on the stability and structural integrity of the fence and garage at 176 Pape. For example, possibly due to the erosion of soil from under the fence and the garage. So I just like my concerns to be addressed and considered, and I do thank you very much for considering my comments and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you.
Great, thank you for coming down. We'll have the agent try to answer your questions when he comes.
Thank you.
Okay?
Like here or?
No, we'll ask him while we got him.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next speaker?
Steve, you have been unmuted.
I just have a few questions. To be on.
Hi, sorry, before you start, if you could just give us your name and address, please, sir, for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Steve Clellen. My address is 156 Pape Avenue.
Okay, go ahead.
So, first of all, I'm not completely opposed to this, but I do want to rebut Mr. Ensel's comment that this lot is not being overdeveloped. The plan that I have states that most of the backyard will be gravel and concrete. So his comments about gardens, I bring into question. While I do somewhat agree with the need for a garage, parking spaces at the back, obviously the building in question that you can see is dilapidated and definitely does need to be removed. This is a double lot, which means it's one of the few houses on Pape between Dundas and Queen that actually has a parking.
Hi, Steve, just for a second, do you have another device unmuted in your end? Because we're getting feedback from you. So if you have another laptop or device, could you please turn it off and only speak on one device at a time, please? And then continue.
So, have I lost my video? Can anybody see me other than in the room? Yeah, I saw a flash. Like it's.
Sorry. I was muted. I could not unmute myself.
Okay, we'll pick back up where you left off.
Okay. I'm not sure how much you heard.
Oh, there, I'm back. Yeah, please continue, Steve.
So, well, I agree with the new need for need for removing that garage that exists in the back. The developer, the agent himself said, this is a double lot. It is one of the few properties on this stretch of Pape between Dundas and Queen that actually has a driveway. So I don't understand the need for more parking if you could incorporate into the existing lot parking in the front. Beyond that, the house in question is currently going under a massive renovation. Not a lot has been added to the existing house, but it is already a very large house. It's one of the largest houses on this stretch of Pape. And I question the need for more living space. How many people are proposed to be living here? Furthermore, in rebut to the comment about it being a garden, I see that there's on the plans that I have, they may not be the latest, but the ones that were sent to me about a couple weeks ago, I see approximately what looks to be 30 large bushes, small evergreen trees, 7 to 9 large trees. Is this really something that you're planning to stick to in the lot itself? Are all those trees really going to be planted? And if so, are they indigenous species to this region of the province? My other concerns are arrangements going to be made to mitigate blocking the laneway during demolition and construction? Furthermore, what is the intended use for the additional dwelling? I don't, again, it goes back to my first question. I've heard from a previous property that yes, Airbnb is the owner's right, rentals, the owner's right, but I still have concerns as to why somebody who purchased the house only last year hasn't even finished the massive renovations that are currently going on with the property, is now intending to add more living space.
Okay, thanks, sir. I'm going to interrupt you. A lot of the concerns you're raising are kind of beyond what this committee is dealing with and might be better addressed as we go through the building permit process if this gets approved. So we got our next speaker.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. If you could speak up just a little.
Great, will do. Good afternoon. My name's Hari Viswanathan. I'm the co-owner, along with my wife Lorna, of the home at 172 Pape Avenue, where we live with our 2 young children. So my home is the neighboring property directly to the south of 174 Pape Avenue. Felt it was essential to attend today to ensure the committee is fully aware of the broader concerns surrounding this variance, as we're not confident that the owners or the agent have considered impacts beyond their own interests, as there has been zero proactive consultation on this variance, not to mention other significant impact changes to their property that you just heard about. A vibrant neighborhood relies on the people who live there and the community they built together. In our area, we actively look out for one another, whether through shared referrals, lending tools, or watching over the children who play safely in the laneway because of much busier traffic on Pape. This variance risks altering the dynamic of our shared space, which is an important part of our community's identity. There are 4 points in my submission I'll be covering today in opposition to this application for a variance. First, I would submit that the variance being requested is not minor. The requested variance would increase the laneway suite width by approximately 21%, from 8 meters to 9.66 meters, which cannot be considered minor. A 1.66 meter expansion is materially significant. The laneway suite's proposed width will inevitably encroach upon my property's adjacent garage, with a substantial risk of damage to my adjacent garage during construction. Furthermore, the width expansion, combined with the fact that the proposed structure will be 2 stories, will greatly impact privacy, in addition to creating significant dust, noise, and overall impacts on laneway traffic during the construction phase. The scale of the increase does not reflect a minor adjustment, but rather a significant departure from the bylaw's intended parameters for laneway. Furthermore, the proposed laneway house would significantly reduce the light that currently enhances our home, a feature crucial to its character and to our family's well-being. Natural sunlight is essential for creating a welcoming living environment with well-documented benefits for mental and emotional health. While the owners of 174 Pape have crafted a home that seems to recognize the importance of natural light to their own living space, it appears that this concern is centered solely on their needs. The City of Toronto has published the Good Neighbor Guide, which emphasizes the importance of consideration for neighboring properties. Based on this guidance, I do not believe any effort has been made to be a good neighbor in this proposal. This variance does not feel minor, as it risks diminishing the natural light in our home and transforming our backyard into a less private, more enclosed space. I respectfully urge the committee to consider the impact that this proposal would have on neighboring properties, particularly regarding light and privacy, before making any decision. For these reasons, I submit that the requested variance fails the minor impact test. Second, the variance is not desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land. While laneway suites contribute to housing diversity, an expanded width beyond the 8-meter limit disrupts the spatial character of laneway housing designed to fit within smaller constrained spaces. The 8-meter limit seeks to ensure consistency in the size of structures along laneways, thereby maintaining a cohesive and appropriately scaled built form. A variance permitting a width of 9.66 meters sets a precedent for incremental increases in laneway suite size that could lead to cumulative impacts, eroding the intent of laneway suite guidelines and diminishing the overall functionality and visual integrity of laneways. Thus, it is my submission that this expansion does not serve the appropriate development of the land. Third, the variance does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The primary purpose of the zoning bylaw's 8-meter width limit for laneway suites is to regulate the density and massing of structures within laneway properties, ensuring they remain secondary and subordinate to the principal dwelling. By permitting a width of 9.66 meters, the variance would disrupt the bylaw's intent to maintain appropriately scaled accessory structures in those spaces. The increase in width may also infringe upon the physical separation typically mandated to prevent overcrowding of laneways, compromising both pedestrian safety and emergency access. Consequently, the variance does not align with the general intent of the bylaw. Finally, the variance does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Toronto's official plan emphasizes respecting the physical character of established neighborhoods and promoting an appropriate scale and density in residential areas. Laneway suites are intended as modest, secondary units that fit harmoniously within the urban fabric. The requested width expansion risks exceeding the official plan's vision of laneway suites as unobtrusive, modestly scaled structures, which is in stark contrast to the proposed laneway suite, which will create a substantial footprint that will likely negatively affect the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Approval of such a variance could pave the way for similar expansions, potentially leading to increased density beyond what the official plan envisions. Given the above analysis and conclusion, I respectfully submit a requested variance Planning Act for a minor variance. The increase in width to 9.66 meters constitutes a significant deviation from the 8-meter limit, does not support appropriate development of the land, conflicts with the intent of both the zoning bylaw and official plan, and cannot reasonably be considered minor, especially given the direct negative impacts on the right to use and enjoy our property without undue interference. Therefore, I recommend that the committee deny this variance application. Thank you for your time today.
Sorry, if we can get the agent back, please.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, you've heard some concerns. I wonder if you could respond, please.
Yes, all right. So regarding the front house, the renovation, as I mentioned earlier, this is basically a gut renovation. It's not impeding on anything more than what was there originally, except for, I'm sure you guys are familiar with many of the houses there. Victorian houses going 3 stories, and then at the back portion of the house, it's 2 stories. So we put a 1-room addition on part of the back story there, of the 2-story area there. As I mentioned earlier, this was by right. We did not come in and get a variance on that. And as for the Victorian itself, that's going, as part of the renovation, the frontage is from old and dilapidated, it's getting restored, so it will actually look fresh, the street. One thing I would just like, well, a couple of things just to note a couple of the concerns. The overhang is like a soffit size. It's basically a 2-foot overhang to the neighbor's curiosity. And it's, as I mentioned in the earlier proposal, the laneway house is actually being, because we have to convey a certain amount of land to the city, we're pushing it back a couple of feet. So the view will actually be an improved situation. Will be set back further from the laneway than what it currently is. And another neighbor asked about the majority of work coming through the laneway. We've set it up that basically most of the work will actually be done from the front. So that when the existing house is done, it can get fenced off. And then there's that big area in the back that they can store their materials and actually build from that side. Not saying that no work will ever come from the laneway side. Obviously, when you're cladding, cladding the house, I'm sure they'll have to do certain works, but they've set it up as a comfortable work area behind the house. Getting to more of the technical points, the neighbor who was speaking from 172 just mentioned about 9.66 being a major variance from 8 meters. I'd like to just point out again that we are allowed to build an 8 meter by 10 meter laneway house. We are asking for 9.66, but in width, we are only asking for, we're at about 6.57. We're under 7 meters in the depth. So if anything, if we were going to actually go by right, we would be building closer to the other houses. So where he was talking about being impeding on light, like we're as far away as you can see on the site survey as we can be. We're staying with basically a 21.5 foot depth of a coach house. And the reason for that depth is to be able to fit full cars in. And then the last one I want to just talk about, there was the concern about if we're actually going to put the trees. And I'd like to, just so it's not my word, I actually, when we were speaking earlier, it was only the site survey. I don't know if you guys, I put submitted a 3-page presentation. It was just one site plan in color with 2 pages of photos. And one of those pages had a number of trees. Because of the mild weather we got, we took advantage of end of year sales. Yes, there it is. So that's perfect. So as you can see, the black is the existing garage that's being set back. And the light at the back is where we're moving it to, but they're very close to the same size. And you can see on the top portion of that, which is the south, how the black encroaches onto the neighbor's lot currently, and that is going to be remedied. If you go to the second page of this, that's just the existing situation with all the cement. And if you go to the third page, that's just, there's over a dozen trees that we took advantage of the mild weather. Currently, half price sales right now. So the client got to benefit from it. And these are all the lines, as you can see on that site plan on the first page, they're all going to get planted to the distance of the existing house. Now, the pack area at the back will be done next spring because we need that area for construction of the laneway house. So it will be fenced off. But those trees will all be lining and planted any day now. Any of the neighbors can walk over, and just like you see them in the picture, they'll see that the whole front there is, has over a dozen trees currently there, intended to line that, front fence line.
Okay, thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Dylan?
Just the neighbor's concern about the difference in elevation and the change. Could you just address that very briefly and maybe
yes,
commit to
my
talking to the
apologies.
neighbor?
Yes, no, I actually did mark that down here, and I skipped over that. So that's part of the, once the laneway house is done, I can see, the fence is already in bad shape and so on and so forth. Once the new home is done, the fence will die, and a new fence will be constructed that will die into the laneway house. And at that time, we would probably put a small retaining wall because we'd want to keep our space. The talk has always been about a small retaining wall there to keep the new fence in line and just so we don't have to change any grading on our side.
And will you be willing to like consult with the neighbor just to let them know what you're planning and such?
Oh, absolutely. Both the contractor and the owner have been in communication with this neighborhood. So, I mean, I don't mind to take that onto my own and show her on that at that point and give her something that both her and my client feel comfortable with.
Okay, great.
That's not a big deal whatsoever.
Thank you.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, man. Your time's done. Thank you. Fair enough. Then you can take it up with him at a later date. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually it's a very good location for a laneway suite. It's well set back from the main property, from the main house. There's a lot of room there. They don't really need any variances, which is great. In terms of the concern from the neighbor about overlook, I noticed that the windows that face the houses are actually high up and narrow, which I thought was a thoughtful detail. There won't really be, they're not really going to provide a lot of overlook for the neighbors. So I thought that was thoughtful of the designer to actually make sure that, those windows are not really overlooking windows, but more just letting light into the property. And also, in terms of the width, all of the garages along here take up the full width of the property. It's really consistent with the others. It makes sense for this one to be also full width. I think that it's a minor variance, and I think it's very supportable and, in fact, desirable.
Okay, thanks, Dylan. You want to make that into a motion?
Happy to, yeah. I'll make that a motion. I think with a Forestry 2 condition.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Reid with Forestry number 2.
Through the chair, sorry to interrupt. Peter, is your frozen?
Mine's having issues as well. So if we
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just verbally make sure to state who has voted on this item. Thank you.
Dylan Reid made that motion. Do I have a seconder? Peter Reid seconds that. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Let's just take a quick pause. Are we okay? My computer is acting up.
Sorry? Forestry 2. Yeah.
Can we get through 2 more items, or you want to do it now?
We can't see anyone, so... Oh, we can't see Peter.
Yeah, so everyone, Peter, you're... Yeah, mine was wonky too. I think...
Can we restart, Peter?
I had to reboot mine, Peter.
We only have 2 others, that's what...
Are we okay to proceed?
I just can be off camera.
Okay.
Or I can actually alter the angle of mine and have...
Okay, I'll swing over. Can you copy your next door neighbor's work?
Okay, you're now on camera.
All right, so let's try and stumble through these last 2. We move on to item number 18. And this is 200 Lawndale Road. This is an application to construct a new 2-story building fronting Forest Hill Road with an enclosed pedestrian walkway connecting to the south abutting building fronting Lawndale Road, and an underground parking garage with 13 undersized parking spaces. This is with respect to Upper Canada College. Do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online as well as
it's Rodney Gill.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, and we do have a speaker here in person.
Okay. Sorry, sir, are you in opposition or support? You don't want to speak? No need to speak. You're in favor. Okay. All right. If we can have the agent.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Rodney Gill for Upper Canada College. My address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400. I'm with Goodman's. I'm counsel to Upper Canada College, who is before you today with a minor variance application to facilitate a new building on their campus to deliver further facilities for their students.
Great. Hang on a second, sir. Panel, I'm going to be as bold as suggest that maybe this is fairly straightforward. Does anyone really need a presentation? Even though I appreciate that the agent and has put together a lot of good material, we've all read it. It's fairly straightforward. Maybe we can just go to questions. Okay, sir, we've read all the material. It's very straightforward. It's very helpful. We understand what you're applying for and the variances you seek. We don't really need a presentation. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, thank you for that, Mr. Chair. My client's very thankful for the consideration by the committee. We did put care into the package to inform the committee and show that what's being proposed is trying to be in keeping with the area, and really the need for the variances is in part because of what we're trying to do to maintain the character of the community.
Right. Yeah, I think we'd agree. Any questions of the applicant? No. All right, let's take this into committee. Does someone want to, Phil, do you want to take this one on?
Yeah, so I think we were all happy to take this right into committee because it is a large project. You can see that it will be based on the presentation materials and the plans, but it's minor variances to get there. And given the size of the property, the nature of the property, it's an institution that's been there a long time. Not much objection. It's clear that the impact is not that significant, which goes to the minor aspect of the test. And so for those reasons, I find it to be a minor variance and would move to approve it, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, motion by Mr. Ghost to approve with a condition for, oh, did you have a comment, Dylan?
No, I was just going to second.
Okay,
and have a comment.
Moved by Mr. Ghosh, seconded by Mr.
I was just
Reed with a comment.
That it's also they've made an effort to, even like the height variance, they've made an effort to move that away from the street.
Yeah, it's set back from.
So like, they've really made an effort to minimize the impact of even the minor variances, which I approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Ghosh, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, sir. All right, we move on to item 19. Peter, are you still frozen? You're back? Item 19, 417 Russell Hill Road. This is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage leading to an internal ramp down to a basement level with 4 underground parking spaces with additional storage mechanical basement area below ramp. Also to construct a front covered porch with stairs, a rear covered ground level terrace with stairs, a side entrance with stairs, a rear 3rd-story balcony, and a front yard driveway with 2 points of access abutting Russell Hill Road. Committee has before a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received October 28th, covering letter from the agent received October the 8th, decision number A0286/24TEY affecting the subject property, email correspondence from the agent, arborist report, and presentation materials from the agent. You have email correspondence from Transportation Services and Urban Forestry. We have 3 form letters in support signed by owners occupants of 412 and 462 Warren, or 412 Russell Hill Road and 262, 258 Warren Road. We have the agent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thank you.
There's some significant revisions.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go through that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Last name is Bronskill, Bronskill. First initial D for David. Here is agent for the applicant. And I think as one of the committee members noted, there is a bit of a history here, but I think it's overall a positive evolution through the process. There was a previous...
So this has been refused, so
yeah.
You can start by taking us through the revisions and then just a quick overview of what you're proposing. It sounds like you've got support of your neighbors now?
There is, and there's hot off the press, although late to be able to provide to you, work with a neighbor directly to the south at 415 Russell Hill Road, and she has provided a letter of support, although it's late to be able to provide it to the committee. So there's technically one more. So there's 412 directly across the street, 262 and 258 Warren, which are two of the properties to the rear to the east, and 415 Russell Hill to the south. You just don't have a copy of the 415 Russell Hill one.
Okay.
There were 15 variances with the proposal that was refused. Rather than appealing that, the owners went back to the drawing board and worked with Mr. Wengel's office. It's now been reduced to 7 variances before you. I can note for you, for example, the landscaping variance was eliminated, a rear yard setback was eliminated, the side yard setbacks were eliminated, and even some of the 7 variances before you are reduced, including the FSI, the length by about 8 meters, the depth by about 7 meters. It's also been reduced. As you noted, Mr. Chair, transportation reconfirmed that they don't have any concerns with the driveway. There are standard urban forestry conditions that we would urge being imposed. And otherwise, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to go through the presentation in front of you if there's any questions. That's the quick background to get where we are today, but I'm happy to drill down on any of the variances if the panel members have concerns.
Panel, do you want a presentation? I'm seeing shaking heads. Do you want a quick overview?
Maybe a very quick overview.
Yeah, David, if you could just give us a fairly quick overview, maybe that would be helpful.
Okay.
Just because this is, even though it's reduced, it's still fairly complex.
I can, and for your benefit, and in particular, Mr. Chair, there's the last slide where we've got some details for the outdoor room.
Well done, sir.
We're continuing to learn, yes. So if staff has the color presentation and they're able to put it up, thank you. And it's the second page, which will show you just a few details. Just as it's coming up, the green line. Oops, I don't know if it's rebooted itself.
Hang on a second, David. We're having technical difficulties here this morning.
No problem.
Just hold on a sec, and we'll see if we can resolve them.
I see it coming up. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks to staff. So the second page has a colored site plan. I wanted just to start there with you because you can see the existing house in green, actually quite long today. The length and depth we're now proposing is the same as that existing length or depth, although obviously that existing house didn't have as much GFA or occupy as much of the lot, but the furthest extent of the ground floor extension now matches that existing green line, although it's been flipped over to the other side and there's an outdoor room in that location today. You can see in red the permitted building envelope. That confirms that the proposal meets the required side yard setbacks. You can also see where the second, third floor and then the ground floor extension would extend beyond that as of right. And you can also see at the front the minor protrusion into the front yard setback for part of the architectural detail on the front of the house. The next slide we've included just to show you how the different floors are deployed on the site in terms of their length and depth. So there is a greater length or depth for the ground floor with the one-story extension at 26.63 meters. The second floor is then, I think, something more modest at 20.98 when compared to the bylaw. And the third floor length is down to 18.24 meters. So it does stagger up through the ground floor, second floor, and third floor levels. If I could ask staff just to maybe move to the last slide because it just completes the picture of that one-story extension in the ground floor room. It is truly an outdoor room. We've got a rear slide or rendering for you so you can see that there aren't walls at the rear or on the side. It is truly an outdoor room. You can see the first floor extension, and you can see there how the second floor and third floors stagger up from the back and from the sides. As we typically do with these presentations, and apologies for staff for bouncing back, we did include 2 slides related to just the numbers in the area, so you can see the FSIs that have been granted. We're now at 79.7 or 0.797. The area, particularly to the north, includes FSIs that exceed that into the 8s and 9s, and a couple that actually reach up to the, I guess what would be the 10s or the 100s. We've also included just numerically the length variances that have been approved in the area. And then the slide after that, we've just drilled down into the immediate vicinity of the site so the committee can get an idea of some of the built form that's been approved in the area and some of the lengths that have been deployed. And I think it's something frankly quite characteristic even of the immediate context to see some of those built forms that have been approved with the additional length and depth. Overall, I think it therefore fits within the character of what's been approved and what is still being proposed in the area. I think it was a useful exercise to go back to the drawing board, modify the number of variances, and in particular, reduce some of the variances that have been previously proposed. And then through discussions with the neighbors, you do have letters of support as well. And I think that's a beneficial exercise. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Dylan?
Thank you for that presentation. It did answer some questions. It's really good to see that, this was revised in a way that is really satisfying. I was just wondering, given that a lot of the length is just 1 story and there's the outdoor room, would you be okay if we tied the approval to site plan and elevations?
Yes, I should have said that. I was remiss in not saying that. I think that's an appropriate condition. As I've said to this panel before, it stops that length or depth from being deployed on other levels and ensures that what is proposed is what is delivered, particularly as it relates to discussions that have occurred with the neighbors. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, Phil?
The arborist report shows that one of the trees affected is affected specifically by having this large circular driveway, which I'm not really sure what the purpose of having these circular driveways is, that's all that necessary, but recognizing that the variance being requested is very minor, it's less than a half-meter difference between a lot where it's allowed as of right. My question is, in the arborist report, it says to assist this tree that is in the location of that driveway, the driveway should be constructed with permeable pavers, and I'm wondering if that's a condition that would be acceptable to your client.
It would be. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Anyone else? I think we're good. Thank you very much. Let's take this into committee. It's considerably improved application from the previous one. Okay, so does anyone want to either comments or make a motion? Paul?
Again, I was here for the previous application or submission. This is a dramatic improvement. Also, there's a lot more clarity around some of these spaces at ground and grade. And I do find the variances requested, the reduced number of variances minor in nature. So I recommend we approve this.
Sorry, is your mic on there? So I'm going to make you do it again.
Sorry about that. Again, I was here at the earlier presentation of this, these minor variances. At this second submission, again, much improved, reduced number, also a lot more responding to both neighbor as well as committee comments. And I do find that the requested variance is minor in nature and in keeping with the character of the context in which they're building. So I recommend we approve this, and I don't know if there's
Forestry 2 and 3? Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Gogan with that condition.
Can I make a comment?
Dylan wants to make a comment.
Oh, I think normally this kind of length might be a concern, but I feel like this is being treated in a sensitive way and fits with the neighborhood.
Are you seconding the motion?
I'll second the motion. Can we add two conditions?
The permeable
The
pavers.
driveway be constructed with permeable pavers and that it be tied to site plan and elevations.
Perfect. So we got those three conditions. So motion to approve by Mr. Gogan, the conditions forestry 2 and 3, permeable pavers for the front driveway and tie to site plan. Seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Approved. Sorry, my computer's frozen again. All right. You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And that concludes the morning session. Back at 2:30? Okay, we resume the afternoon proceedings at 2:30. Thank you all.